Hi guys, and welcome to round 4 of the Isle of Wight Masters. I'm joined by a new co-commentator today. We have WFM Diana Mirza from Ireland. So Diana, if you just want to introduce yourself maybe to people who might not know you, even though they should.
Hello everyone, I'm Diana and I'm an Irish chess player. I have commentated a few things, but this is the first time I'm commentating Isle of Wight. And also I think it's the first time that we're commentating together. Usually I commentate on your games or you commentate on mine, but I don't think we've commentated together yet.
No, this is the first time that we've commentated together, but we have collaborated a lot in the past.
Yeah.
And you're one of my favorite people in chess in general.
Oh, thanks, you too.
So I just want to say also, for those of you who might be joining for the first time the commentary today, my name is Lula. I am a chess player from Jersey and the Channel Islands, and I will be your host for all of the commentary streams for the Isle of Wight, and I will be being joined by a variety of different guests. So very exciting matchups today. On board 1 here we have an FM and an IM. Like, this is surprising. I thought we were going to have 2 GMs on board 1 by round 4, but these guys are both doing really well, clearly. So we have FIDE Master Maciej Czopor from Poland, I believe, yes. And International Master Marcos Camacho Collados from Spain.
Oh, nice name.
Yeah, so they're both on 3 out of 3, which means that they've had to fight some tough opposition to get here and to be playing on board 1. We have their camera here. It's always nice to have the players' cameras. And we'll just go back. This is a Caro-Kann. Caro-Kann is an opening actually we've been seeing quite a lot so far in this tournament. And this is a different variation from like all of the variations we've seen so far. This is the main line. But this is the like tactical variation. So like the normal one would have bishop to f5 here, and then it goes something like bishop f5, I think knight to g3, bishop back, and then usually h4, h5 is pushed. Bishops get traded off. But this variation with knight to f6 is very popular, and the best move is to trade and double black pawns. I don't know if you've ever been a Caro-Kann player, Diana.
No, I've never played it.
Okay, I used to be a Caro-Kann player, and I actually used to play this variation myself as black, but I was relative beginner. I was relative beginner to the game, so basically, like, after I got here, and then I got my pieces developed and castled, I had no idea what to do. But these double pawns can actually be really useful for black to fend off any kind of kingside attacks, and you can also try to mobilize them yourself for an attack. So it's kind of interesting. It's not such a big deal that those pawns are doubled. And it's actually kind of nice because a lot of the time in the Caro-Kann, you are dealing with your king being attacked. So if you're kind of avoiding that, it's pretty nice. We have knight a6, which if you're like newer to chess, you might think it's very weird to develop your knight here. Usually it's just a way to reroute it to get it to a better spot. It's not going to stay on a6, of course. Knight e2 and direct rerouting knight c7. So what do you play against the Caro-Kann?
I played I play very similar setup to this, to what White has right here, but instead of knight e2, I bring my knight to f3, and then my other knight isn't swapped off and it goes to d2, but I played the exchange.
Yeah. I was saying to Ghasi that I've had a hard time finding something I like to play against the Caro-Kann, and I started to play the exchange a couple times recently. But honestly, maybe watching so many Caro-Kanns in this tournament, I'm going to find a new thing to play against it, because I've tried a couple of different things.
It's hard.
It is. It's actually a lot harder to play against than the French, and like they have very similar pawn structures, of course, but they're very different openings. And I think that like obviously the advanced variation is probably the most challenging, but you have to want to play the advanced variation. So I mean, this is all very normal. Like we're gonna have. I'm actually very excited to see how black deals with these pawns. Like as somebody who used to play this opening and used to play it badly, very excited to see how they do this. And I think we'll all learn a lot from it. I think we can take a look at board 2, because this is Black is probably just going to castle, like the action's not really starting yet, so we can just flick through to board 2, where we have English Grandmaster Daniel Gormally versus English International Master Yang Fanzhou. So we have a Sicilian, which is exciting. E4, C5, and an open Sicilian, and a Najdorf. So we've had a Najdorf already that we followed closely in round 2 of this tournament, and Najdorf is tricky because there's like so many moves that white can play already, right? Like if I open the opening Explorer, it's like 20 moves that white can choose. Bishop G5, Bishop E3, Bishop E2, Bishop C, like there's so many things, and Bishop E2 is what's played. So this is pretty normal. It's just like the second or third most popular option, and obviously not going to be a shocker to black. And so black plays E5, and so in exchange for grabbing this space in the center is left with this like backwards d pawn, and like as black, I don't think I would want to play this. Like, I know it's very critical to like push E5 in a lot of these Sicilians, but I hate having that weakness of the backwards pawn. How do you feel?
It's difficult because whenever I look at this, I think why is black doing it? But I also really struggle to play this with white. Whenever I play it online, I don't play it over the board. Maybe once or twice I did, but I think black also gets a lot of space after b5 comes in, and it's hard to decide where to put my king, because in most Sicilians, I guess you castle queen side, and then black attacks you on the queen side, you attack on the king side. But black's king position is usually quite solid, and if you castle king side, then it's hard to get the nice attack that you usually do. So
Yeah, and this is what we saw in the Najdorf on Tuesday, actually. Both sides ended up just castling short, and it became a bit less of a bloodbath than you would expect from one of these open Sicilians. So it wasn't like as exciting maybe as we had hoped. But I mean, there's lots of different paths you can take. And like, obviously, I'm not saying anything like this was a bad variation. This is very, very normal. And like, black obviously gets the queenside expansion, and like if they can ever play d5, they would be obviously very happy. So this is where we're up to. We've got castles, bishop e3, bishop e6, and a4. So, I mean, we're discouraging b5, of course, but this is maybe going to be another like slower open Sicilian if both sides are castling short.
White didn't want to commit.
Yeah, white was afraid, I guess. But I mean, both of these guys, even though we've got a grandmaster versus an international master, as we can see, there is not really a big rating discrepancy between the two of them. So we've got 24-35 and 24-27. And so like if we're believing the rating system, which we should, they're actually pretty evenly matched. And so even though you're the grandmaster here, you definitely don't want to be too careless.
Yeah, and also I guess there's nothing, you don't need to risk getting into something that's really theory heavy and just scary to deal with. So whenever you play against the Sicilian, sometimes it's scary to have to go into all the heavy theory lines, but you can just choose to castle kingside and play normal chess.
Yeah, and just play principal chess, like knight c6, probably bring the rooks over, like centralize your pieces, and then you literally do just have a game of chess.
Yeah.
And Lawrence Cooper in chat saying that Yang Fan has 2 GM norms already, so just needs 1 more and the rating to make GM.
Okay.
Yeah, so I wonder, I guess he's doing very well. He's already on 3 out of 3. So this is an event where he could get his final GM norm, I suppose, if he has a high enough rating average. But his opponents so far have not been super high rated, 2040, 2140, and 2150. Like, what does your rating average need to be to make a GM norm? Pretty high, right? More than, is it like more than 23?
Well, I think 2380. Also, don't you need to play a certain amount of
closed
people
events
from
or
other countries.
oh, do you? That's
Or
fun.
maybe not. Am I
I didn't know
wrongly
that. That's
remembering?
fun. It's possible. Like I'm gonna trust you. I'm gonna take your word for it. So if he needs
Laz
an
can tell us.
average,
Laz knows.
yeah, Laz can tell us. If he needs an average of 2380, then he would need to win this game and go on to play more Grandmasters, really, to qualify for a norm, right? It's kind of the thing where you need to do well at the start so that you continually get paired against high-rated opponents.
Yeah.
We have a question. Is Bobby Cheng, the Aussie top seed, playing today? Yes, and we can flick to game 3, which is Bobby Cheng. And we have been following him for the past 2 days. Yesterday, he made a draw with Jovanka, and that was obviously a very good result for International Master Jovanka Huska. And this is a Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, so we've transposed from Moretti. So he's playing against British FIDE Master Borna Derakhshani. Yes, I think this is good. So Borna is on 3 out of 3, Bobby is on 2.5. And actually the funny thing was, I was telling Katy this, is in round 2, Bobby Cheng played this junior, Emil Steiners, who I played in Reykjavik in 2022 when he was like 1700 and like not 5 years old, but he was very young. And I made a draw with him, and now he's like 2300. Like, and like 2300, and I'm just like here, like not being 2200.
You have different priorities.
Yeah, this is absolutely true.
Also, I have this is just requirements. So you need to play a 9-round tournament, which this is. 1/3 of your opponents must be GM and half must have a title. Their average rating must be above 2380, like Laz told us, and they have to be from 2 other federations. So I think he's already played 2 other federation players.
Yes, and in a big tournament like this, that's never going to be like the defining factor, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because there are so many international players.
Sometimes it can be if you've played only one and then in the final round you need to, well, it depends on the tournament, but Isle of Wight, I guess there are many British or English players, so it can be hard. A lot of the times you'll get people from the country where the tournament is played in.
Right, this is true, yeah. Especially for Grandmasters. Like obviously we've got a lot of British Grandmasters playing tournaments in the UK. So let's take a quick look at this game. We've got an English, and then we've got a transposition, which happens often with English. So Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation. And I mean, Queen's Gambit declined exchange is very comfy for white, obviously. I always find like these exchanges, they're kind of boring for black. like there's a reason I don't play the Queen's Gambit declined. It's not, I don't know, it's not the kind of opening where black is like having a fun time, right? Like even if they get a great, like a normal position, like no one plays the Queen's Gambit declined to have a party like they do the King's Indian.
I mean, I think it's already up to white. Like white doesn't play d4 to have a party either.
Okay, maybe true, but like, okay, but if white plays d4 and there's a King's Indian, like we can see some exciting...
that's true, but the party is mostly being smothered and not have any space to do anything. And hope that we can get an F5 in.
I think the party games are the E4 games. This is true, but we've seen lots of D5 or D4, D5s. Actually, no, we've seen a lot of D4s, but we've seen a lot of strange responses. Like we saw a fun Benoni yesterday, yeah, which I rarely see. But it's been really nice doing commentary and seeing like such a wide range of openings, because
you learn a lot from commentating, especially on openings and in the end game. I think like that's at the start you're focused on the openings, and then there's so many middle games that it's hard to focus on all of them, but then when there's 1 or 2 games still being played, you get a lot of insight from end games.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We could take a quick look at board 4. We haven't generally been covering board 4, but just because this is Keith Arkell, British grandmaster, and Sebastian Bogner. So Sebastian Bogner, he's a Swiss GM, somebody we've been following for past couple of days. And yesterday, I think he got a draw against international master Daniel Fischer yesterday. Daniel Fischer found this amazing way to get a perpetual. Like, he sacrificed his queen. Like, it was crazy. It was great. And in round 2, actually, Sebastian Bogner was being like outplayed by this 2200 who was so
I
close
think I remember
to
that
beating
game.
him.
His opponent got unlucky in time pressure.
Yeah, his opponent just like made one wrong move in time pressure. And so like I'm kind of invested. I want to see Sebastian Bogner play, like just outplay somebody, because like not to sound like he hasn't, but like I want to see him like really play the game of his tournament, because I am kind of rooting for him now. Like, he's clearly like a very skilled like opportunist. I've seen him jump at times, and playing against another grandmaster today. Obviously he's on 2.5 out of 3. He's not doing badly. He's not like losing loads of rating. Nothing like this is happening. But he is playing down, by about 200 points. So even though you're playing another grandmaster, this is like a game you want to win.
Yeah. Also, Keith is a good friend of mine. Well, I know Keith for a long time. He was actually the first grandmaster that I beat in a friendly game. I've never beaten any in classical, but I always thought that he let me win. So it's nice to see Keith playing. Also, he's a very solid player, I think. I think he grinds his opponents a lot. So it will be tough for Sebastian, I think, to, well, hopefully. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna, since you're rooting for Sebastian, I'll be rooting for Keith.
I'm not rooting for either of them. Like, obviously I would love to see Keith do well. He's such like a beloved English player.
Yeah.
And this is a British tournament. Like, but yeah, I mean, obviously every day I just want to see good games of chess. If it's the case, what you say about Keith being kind of like a very solid player who grinds his opponents, like I said, Sebastian, he's kind of let his opponent get a better position in the past couple of games, and then just like jumped when his opponent has like stepped back to breathe. And so that seems to be like quite a different playing style. So if Keith is just very patient and very calm and just like grinds out the position, then that might not be so great for Sebastian. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.
Let's maybe take a quick look at Alexandra Prado, because she is the only streamer at this event, and she is streaming her games on her channel. And yesterday she had a very nice win against a 1775 rated player. And I think that after that win, she seemed very happy. I saw she posted about it, because she had lost the first 2 games. It was tough, but now, like, I think once you've got your first win in a tournament, you kind of start to feel more confident and you like get into your stride. So I don't think that she won't be afraid of a 2070, even though they're a little bit higher. And we have another Sicilian, close Sicilian. I like to play this way against the Sicilian, actually. And here, actually, my coach, I am not having classes right now, but I learned this with a coach. My coach just, we have a line where I just don't move the bishop. And if they want to take the bishop, you let them take the bishop, which is kind of fun, because here usually people move the bishop, but you actually don't have to move the bishop. Yeah. And it's not really a big deal.
Yeah, I guess it depends how attached you are to your bishop here, but I actually play this with black, and I'm always happy to play the bishop.
You're always happy when people move it?
So if I take it.
Oh, you're happy to take it? Well, the thing is like, for me, if I'm putting my bishop on b5, then a lot of these cases I'm going to take your knight anyway. Like if I'm doubling your pawns, like you're not really playing bishop b5 if you're afraid to trade the bishop for the knight, you know? But yeah, I totally get it. Like a Sicilian with the bishop pair, you're never going to be like unhappy.
Yeah.
Okay, so e6, knight to e2, challenging the knight in the center, castles, and b5.
Oh, pawn sacrifice.
Yeah, so pawn sacrifice, that's fun. Here, engine actually like knight takes d4. I guess that this is prep from the opponent, right? The opponent hasn't used any time yet, like played all of these moves within like 10-15 seconds. This is definitely preparation. This seems to be a sideline. It's only been played 18 times in our database here, or yeah, not very much. So I mean, if you see a pawn, you take the pawn, right?
Yeah, usually if you're not too worried about your opponent playing it so quickly. But I mean, here you have to, because your bishop is going to be trapped otherwise. You can't move your bishop out of the way.
Totally. And Alexandra spent 10 minutes here deciding what to do, almost 10 minutes. And you have a couple of options, right? Because she decided to capture with the bishop. You can also capture with the knight.
Yeah.
And that would seem like also very natural. I guess then maybe you have to calculate knight takes e4. But like after takes, bishop takes, knight takes, right? I don't know. But then maybe that's just why knight is the best move here.
Yeah, I guess, and also that d4 pawn might be a bit vulnerable in the future. But this maybe is similar to like, well, I played the Benko Gambit with black, so often I do give away the b5 pawn in those lines. This doesn't look too similar, but it might have the same ideas, that you're happy to give away a pawn to have the open b file and maybe attack on the queen side. And maybe you can also play d5. You want to remove the bishop to play d5. So
yeah, I mean, I guess bishop d3, they can't actually play c4 because then your knight hangs.
Oh yeah, you're right. Oh yeah.
So at least for now, the bishop is safe on d3, but like also your bishop doesn't want to be on d3. Like you want to get this bishop out as well. You want to get the queen out, and you want to have some more pawns fighting for space. So I can also see why you wouldn't want to go for a bishop to d3.
Yeah, and I guess then b5 becomes like a good move if you allow it to go to b4 then. And black just has a lot of space.
Yeah, because now b4 is definitely possible. So this is actually really tricky because this is definitely prep, and I would be unhappy. Like I would be not, like, you know? So she takes with the bishop, knight takes, and we have knight takes e4, of course. So it's not actually any kind of sacrifice because you managed to pick up the central pawn. But
her opponent also looks a little bit intimidating because he has a hood and his mouth covered as well, and he looks like he's
Oh really? You managed to open her cam on her stream?
Yeah, on her stream. And beside her, I didn't know that she's playing, but actually Viktoria Radeva is playing, who used to be a girl that I was always paired with against in World and Youth, World and European events.
That's cool. Yeah. I wonder if I can get her camera for our stream. I think that I do have it, so I can add it now.
Oh, great!
Perfect. It's always nice to have the camera. We can upload it there. I can send it to you as well in our chat. Okay, yeah, her opponent does have this hood and the mask, and they're like the body language. They're okay. They mean business. Okay, is it like a kid, like a teenager?
Yeah, it looks like a teenager.
Yeah, these are like psychological strategies.
For who? Because it seems like it might also just take away from, I don't know. It feels whenever I put a hood on, it feels wrong.
It does.
Especially inside.
Yeah. Oh yeah, her opponent is very young, and he's like stretching. He's playing with his pen. Oh my gosh, I'm not a good candidate for like playing against kids because they're always doing some kind of fidgeting.
Yeah.
You know, and I totally get it. Like kids
really
have to fidget, but as the opponent, oh.
The worst is when they have a water bottle and they just take a sip every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And they don't stop. And they close the lid. They take a sip, put it back, close the lid, open the lid, take a sip, put it back, close the lid. It's the most annoying thing.
I think I've heard that a lot of people don't enjoy playing against streamers. And I haven't really had this experience with kids. Like usually kids are either they don't care or they're kind of excited because these kids are also the candidates for watching streamers. Like a lot of these kids do watch, you know, like Gotham Chess, Hikaru, and like engage with YouTube content outside of chess as well. So usually they're just like kind of like excited because they like to check out your camera, like they like to do all of this stuff. I've never had like a kid complain. And it's usually adults. Like it's usually like it correlates with age, right? Like the younger your opponent, the less they care about your streaming. Or the less they're bothered by it. But
or a lot of the times the parents might have something to say, because I remember I was streaming in Citrus one year and I was playing a little kid, and I asked the parent if it was okay that I stream, and she was a little bit reluctant, but I think it was more because she didn't want him to be distracted.
Yeah, that's fair as well. I guess worries about distraction, but I think that this argument only goes so far because at a chess tournament, there's actually like hundreds of distractions. Like you have people walking around you, like you have people whispering, you have like sometimes you have spectators, sometimes you even have spectators on their phones. Like and like there's so many distractions that having a static camera that makes no sound next to you is like way at the bottom of the list. I guess if you don't like to be on camera, I understand this aspect more. So like personally, when I'm streaming at tournaments, I always angle it away from my opponent. So I don't tend to do this 90 degrees angle that Alex has. Instead, I usually put it kind of behind my opponent so that their face is never on screen. And
oh really? Oh, I didn't know that. Actually,
personally, I prefer that because then at least my viewers can see my facial expressions better, and they can actually see the position better as well, because seeing the position from 90 degrees on is not super easy either. And then also I don't have this concern with my opponent about if they don't want to be on camera, because they're not on camera anyway. And like I actually really do get it, because if I wasn't a streamer, I don't think I would want to be on
definitely. Yeah. Even as a streamer, I'm constantly thinking, oh shit, is the angle good? Or like how many people are watching? Is the camera even working? Because it's hard to check during the game.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. And so we have a comment from chat saying, let's be real, we are only watching to see our pieces in your face. And this is totally true. Like I had some negativity about my streaming at my last tournament because like people in general were like kind of skeptical about it and about them being on camera, but the viewers are really only watching to see the streamer that they're rooting for. Like you could be anybody, you know, you could even be like a famous grandmaster, and the person who's streaming, their viewers are really only there to watch them. So it's not about who they're playing. And you're the focus, so you should be in frame. I do get this perspective as well that most streamers take of having your opponent on camera, because you do get to see them thinking, you get to see if they're focused, you get to see if they're happy with the position. But for me, I think that it does kind of introduce more complications with like consent. And so that's why I just decide to completely circumvent the issue and just not have their face on the screen.
Yeah, that's definitely a better way to do it.
I mean, at most tournaments these days, they just kind of write it into the terms and conditions of the tournament so that like if you've signed up for the tournament, you've agreed to be photographed by the official photographers. You've agreed for any local media to come and film. You've agreed to be on streamers, cameras, like all of this kind of stuff. And so like people complaining is less of an issue because they've actually already unknowingly consented to it. Like, I don't know about this tournament in particular, but that's becoming a more and more popular way for organizers to deal with it. So Alex played b3, which is it's an interesting move because she's already, you know, committed her bishop over here. And I guess...
What is she's worried about maybe something like rook b8 and then taking the b2 pawn. But maybe you could have just played rook b1. Or what would have been better?
I'm not sure. I think...
or maybe that's not even a problem because the a7 pawn is hanging.
Let's say like c4, rook b8, knight takes a7.
Yeah, well, first, I guess first we need to defend the a7 pawn.
Right. So we could have something like c4.
But probably, I mean, I actually don't even think it's much of a threat. Like, we can probably just, as black, I don't think rook b8 is actually that much of a threat because, like you said, a7 is hanging, and we don't even want to spend time defending it because there's no nice moves. Usually queen c7 is how you could develop your queen, but the knight is on b5. So just playing a6 and then the knight goes back would be fine for black. So I guess b3 isn't so... it's not necessary.
Yeah, exactly. So I was thinking like a6 is a very common move in these positions anyway, where the bishop is captured. And white usually doesn't really mind black playing a6 because we're going to move our knight back at some point anyway, right? Our knight's never going to live on b5 forever. And so a6 is not really a big deal. And I guess, she was maybe concerned about rook b8, but I'm sure she must have looked at knight takes a7. But I think when you're playing the game, it's like very normal to think like, oh, what if my knight gets kind of stuck? But I guess you always
have the b5 square anyway. Worst case, you'll just have to give a pawn back.
Yeah, I guess maybe she hadn't considered playing c4 though. Like c4 is just the top engine move, but like let's say she had just played some like knight g3 is also a very valid move. And like maybe she was just not liking something here. I mean, rook takes b2 is possible, but like you can also just develop your bishop. Like maybe she just didn't like this. Or chat is saying queen b6. I guess you can always take the bishop, but if you don't want to trade this bishop, then maybe she just wasn't a fan of...
Yeah, and now this looks very vulnerable over there.
Right? Like after bishop to d7, which is the top move, it's a very natural move. It kind of feels a little bit uncomfy. You do just have one tempo to play like a4 or like c4. Like so you're just in time to save the knight. But I think her like vibe-based move of b3 and not going for this is very valid. Like I do get it. And also maybe she just wasn't interested in allowing this rook to come into b2.
And also then queen b6 and it's...
now queen b6. And like if you bring your knight here, then actually will you be losing another pawn? Like all of this kind of stuff has to be looked at. So I think b3 on a human level does make a lot of sense actually. But bishop to b7 is played instantly anyway, so there is not going to be any rook b8 nonsense going on. Should we go back to board 1?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we have a couple of a couple of moves. So we have castles. This is kind of around where we got to. Black is castled as well. Queen to c2, very natural idea, just making this queen bishop battery on looking at h7. And g6. And you can always play for f5 here, and then it's not such a big deal as well to have this.
And if you can get your bishop to g7, then the structure looks okay. But and actually
this one idea that Katy showed me yesterday, it was actually Mr. Dodgy's game. So it was a d4 position, was I think Queen's Gambit declined exchange, was this idea of bringing this knight to g7 and this bishop to f5. And it's a very creative way of trading off that light squared bishop without compromising on your pawn structure. And it wasn't played in the game. It was just an idea that Katy came up with. But I've been thinking about it a lot because I'm one of these people who hates being attacked by the queen bishop battery on these light squares.
Yeah, I don't think you're the only one.
Yeah, right. And nobody likes it. But this is just a very creative way of dealing with it because, of course, you would love to play bishop to f5, but it's just not going to be ever possible without a nice supporting piece. So this would be a creative way
a nice maneuver
of dealing with it. Yeah. But I guess, like there are going to be f5 opportunities too. So we've had bishop f4, knight d5. And we're just trading the bishops. Computer liked bishop to h6, just pushing the rook out. But I guess black probably wants to play rook e8 anyway. And now you can just trade off the bishops, so...
Yeah. Although I guess that bishop isn't... Well, yeah. I was going to say that maybe white is actually happy to trade off that bishop because now the dark squares are even more weak for black since they no longer have the dark square bishop. I guess white also doesn't, but it is black's weakness.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because they've played g6. I mean, they had to really, but because you've played g6, you're always a bit careful about the dark squares around your king. And a5. So that's fun. I think that I always whenever I see someone else play like a5 or h5, I'm like, excellent move, alpha 0 move. If I play a5, it kind of feels like it's because I don't actually know what I should do.
Well, I mean, here black can't be playing on the king side, so they don't have any central pawns anymore, so they have to choose the only side that they can play on. And I guess a5, if you can get well, I don't even know if a4 is the idea, but or even I'm not even sure if you're trying to stop b4, but maybe you just want to play b5, get your bishop out to a6, or maybe even b6 and bishop a6 and trade the light square bishop, because the light square bishop is more annoying to deal with than previously the dark square bishop. And also the bishop on c8 doesn't have any nice squares to go to on the h3 c8 diagonal. They will just be kicked away. If you go to g4, then h3, and if you go back to h5, then g4, and your bishop is trapped. On f5, the bishop is covering. On e6 is just a tall pawn, and then on d7 as well is just passive. So maybe he wants to try to trade the bishop on a6.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice idea, and I can just put it on the board. So like an idea like b6 here. And, okay, let's say that some random developing move is played and trading off bishop. The only downside is then you do have...
Yeah, now your rook is awkward. Yeah, so maybe it's not so good.
Well, I mean, it's a compromise that you make, right? For the sake of trading off white's best minor piece, like very active bishop. And actually here, you do have this very nice knight as black. So I guess c4 to try and kick it might be a plan at some point for white. I saw that the computer did like that. But I think that, yeah, trading off the bishop is something that I would personally want to do as black. Yeah. And like you said, there's nowhere else it can really go. I mean, it could go to, could go here, but really we want our rook to have free control of the e-file without anything in the way. And it's not really serving a purpose. So... it's a nice plan. I think it's a very practical plan as well to play this position.
Yeah, although white's pieces are just so well placed, that knight on e2 is covering a lot of important squares like f4.
Yeah.
And your rook is coming to d1. I guess your rook on e1 doesn't have is not able to double up, which is what you'd want to do on an open file. But still, like the bishop, the queen, the knight, the rooks are connected. Everything is decently placed. But also, like you mentioned, the knight on d5 is so strong. It's probably the best piece on the board.
Yeah, and I think that's why the engine is immediately asking for c4. And I would just kind of be concerned
Oh
about this
yeah.
idea.
Yeah, once
Um,
that light square bishop is off, then you're happy.
yeah, and it's really interesting because I think on a human level, you
You
see
don't want to
c4.
allow that.
Yeah, and you immediately see knight to b4, and you're like, oh no, absolutely not, and you disregard c4. But
Yeah.
I guess you do end up with these very nice central pawns. So knight takes and queen takes, and this is a nice structure to have, hanging pawn
Yeah.
structure. Like if you can maintain it, it can be very nice. And I think I probably would prefer to have white here, even with the knight against the bishop. What about you?
I'd
Or you
have.
like your bishop too much?
I'm actually not sure who I'd prefer. The pawns are annoying, but in the future, maybe they might become like if black can get the rook from a to d8 and start putting pressure on the d4 pawn, then it'll become kind of a target, and I don't want to have to push it because the second I take black in this position.
That's fair. I think there's like good things to both sides. Obviously, having the bishop is going to be nice for any end game. So here, if we're not playing for c4, because I mean, maybe this FIDE master will play it because he's a much better player than us. But if we're not playing for c4, I think also it's just very valid to make like slower improving moves, right? So like you can either develop your rook somewhere or like h3 and stop anything from ever coming here and trading if that's ever a concern. Probably have an exciting move on Alexandra's board. So
Yeah,
she
Laz just said
take a
that.
look. So this is another flank pawn
Oh!
push. Okay.
Oh! That would terrify me. I would not want to be in her position right now.
I would be miserable. I would be thinking about my recap already, being like, I'm gonna complain. I'm gonna complain
no.
about my opponent in my recap because, oh my gosh, for those of you who are watching, if you're not playing a lot of tournament chess, like when you're playing classical game of chess, there's nothing more miserable than being attacked for 4 hours. And her opponent is playing a very aggressive line.
Yeah.
Like they've already been like throwing their B pawn, now they're throwing their G pawn. And like actually if you take this, it becomes very scary because like rook G8 and you're losing immediately. You can't take this pawn. You just can't take it.
Yeah, your king is too weak. This is the thing with when you're playing against a Sicilian and you castle early. Yeah, black can just wait to castle. I mean, that's I guess a thing in every opening where it's opposite side castling. If you just wait, you don't want to castle before your opponent. Usually, you want to try and castle at the same time. But if you've already decided which side to castle on, then you're just allowing your opponent to, well, giving the chance to your opponent to start an attack on your king. And there, I mean, e8 is not the safest square because the rook is on e1, but opening up the g file would be much easier for black to create an attack on.
Right, and Alexandra has made the right move and retreated her bishop instead. So unfortunately, this does mean for her that black has kind of already very advanced pawns on the king side that they can go for this attack on the castle king. And yeah, sometimes chess is just like a game of chicken where you're both waiting for the other side to castle. So you can find out what kind of game of chess it's going to be, which again, if you're not playing tournament chess, you kind of don't realize how psychological this is because when you have an opponent like sitting across from you, like you really are trying to figure out what kind of opponent will this be. Like, are they gonna play like classical, like civilized positional chess? Am I gonna be blown off the board? Are they gonna try and destroy me in 20 moves? And like it really changes a lot about the whole experience and about the game. And so of course here this developing move comes with an attack on the knight. And it just seems like Alexandra's opponent is just playing extremely actively. Like every move is coming with a threat. And as our chat is saying, of course they can just go for queen c6 and be threatening checkmate already. And if f3 to hit with g4. So this would be a very unpleasant position.
Even though the engine says that it's actually it's not so bad, maybe it's slightly better for black. Psychologically, this is really hard to play for white because you're not attacking on any side. You have your knight on b5, but it's not really, everything is covered on that side.
Yeah, psychologically, this is so much easier to play for black. First of all, you've got your preparation, and if you get your preparation, you have this psychological advantage. Also, he is up almost 25 minutes on the clock, so he has a time advantage, which is very important in these games because there is no time control. So when you get into time trouble in this game, that's it. You're going to be playing on increment for the rest of the game. So Alex needs to not be scared, basically, because the worst thing you can do is get paralyzed and spiral. And in one of my first tournaments, I was being attacked by a higher rated player. And I was just sitting there and letting my clock run down and thinking, and I managed to think myself. I managed to think myself into thinking that my position was dead last and I should just resign. No, I didn't resign. But I spent such a long time and I really thought it was game over. I kept playing and I ended up having a much better position than my opponent. But chess is so psychological. And when I went and looked with the engine after the game, I realized that this position I thought was completely lost was dead equal. I was totally fine. And I was just doubting myself because I was playing someone who was higher rated than me. Yes, okay, Alex doesn't have this rating problem here, but if your opponent is super aggressive and you know they're just trying to blow you off the board instantly, it's not fun.
No, it's not. And you should always believe in your position because worst case you lose and you don't know where that came from, but but the good things about it are way outweigh the bad things. You always should believe in your position. And then you just look for moves that are way more aggressive, which make your opponent also have to think a little bit more because they have to calculate more.
Yes. Yeah. I totally agree. And one of the most useful pieces of chess advice I was ever given was Shocker from Mr. Dodgy. And I don't think he said it in these exact words, but basically the takeaway is if you haven't done anything wrong, you can't be punished. And so if you've played principal chess moves, you've developed your pieces, you've castled, you've controlled this, if you've done all of these things you're supposed to do, there's no reason your opponent should be winning. There's no reason you should be able to be punished for making only good moves. Yeah. And so Alexandra in this position has made only good moves, right? But she's still there's this feeling that you're being punished because your opponent has an attack on every move. They're threatening checkmate. They're threatening tactics. And in reality, she hasn't done anything wrong and she just needs to keep this in mind.
Yeah, that's true. I guess it depends what is good and what's maybe just neutral moves because...
That's true.
Yeah. Because if you play, for example, b3, it wasn't a mistake, but it was a move that doesn't add to her position and just gave a bit more opportunity to black. So if you do a lot of these moves, they can add up and then your opponent is just ahead out of nowhere. So
absolutely. Yeah. This is true as well. You can't be especially in a game in a Sicilian, you can't just be shuffling,
Yeah.
You have to be actively developing your pieces, improving your position. And I totally agree. If Alex continued to make B3 style moves for the next 10 moves, she would be mated.
Yeah. But just the attack would just be starting to get... Also, if you do give your opponent a chance to find good moves, sometimes they might not, and then they can weaken themselves or over push. So it's not always bad to make moves that are just maybe kind of like passing moves or neutral moves that are not threatening but also not improving your position. So sometimes it is a strategy, but it's usually not when you're being attacked or when you're opposite side castling.
I hope that she keeps her nerve. She's gone into a bit of a think. Shall we go back to maybe board 2 and 3? We haven't taken a look since the beginning. So board 2. And we were here kind of knight c6, this last very normal developing move, and now both sides are pretty much fully developed. Just got to bring the rooks somewhere at some point. So bishop to f3, rook to c8. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense. Rooks belong on open and semi-open files. So knight d5, bishop takes. Okay, fun. Would you take this knight? Are you afraid of knight b6? Is this annoying?
Knight b6, rook c7. I think not. I don't think it's the worst thing. Also, maybe I actually want to play rook c7 so that I can double up later. But I guess it's hard to get that knight out of there. So I would have to reroute like knight b8, knight d7. Or, I mean, I don't think I would want to play knight d7 immediately. I mean, actually, that would be a move, because then you also have the c5 square.
Yeah, I think that the knight b6 looks nice, and it does help to keep some control over d5. But I mean, the more centralized your outpost, the better, right? And this is pretty peripheral of an outpost, so it's not like devastating or anything. Funny thing is, actually, the top engine move here for black is already knight b8, so that's fun. And then if knight b6, rook c6 is actually possible. So you don't have to play rook c7. You can have it defended by your pawn, which is kind of nice, I guess.
Yeah, and you don't have to be worried about the skewer of bishop b6 after the knight moves, if your rook is on c7.
Yeah,
this looks. I mean, it's not maybe the most obvious route, but bringing your knight to d7 does make sense.
Yeah, this is just the show. Obviously, black would not play king h8, but yes, this is nice to be tactically aware, and putting the rook on c6 would definitely prevent any tactics. So instead, white just gets rid of the knight and says, I don't want any problems. And I guess that makes sense, because this knight can fight for d5, right? So now there's no backwards pawn as well. So if you manage to like blockade your backwards pawn or resolve this situation, like this d6 pawn is now not really a target.
Yeah, that's true.
We can't put rooks here anymore. Yeah. I mean, we can put rooks here, but we're not targeting anything. So yeah, this is probably actually quite nice for black, even though white has this space and this clamp. It does open up the e4 square for potentially putting something here as well.
Yeah, like definitely D2. White has more space and the bishop pair.
Yes, which is nice, always nice. Gotta be careful that a move like bishop to b6 is never possible, because that would be annoying. But it would be challenging to set up, so not really worried. Okay, putting pressure on the c file, c3, and trading off the last knight. So we do just have the 2 bishops left as our minor pieces, which is quite nice. I like this.
Yeah.
And we're threatening rook a4.
Oh, that's a nice move. Yeah, rook a4 is really nice.
Thank you. It's not even an engine move.
Yeah, I think that my favorite moves are rook lifts or discovered attacks on a queen.
Yeah, actually, I had this really fun conversation in London at the London Chess Classic with this lady, and she was playing in the chess tournament. I didn't know her at all, but she came and spoke to me, and like she didn't know I was a streamer or anything. She was just speaking to me, and she was saying that like in games where she wins, like she finds that it's because she's moved her rooks a lot, and if she loses, she's like, yeah, I just didn't move my rooks enough, and I was like, that's interesting. But like, it's actually true that rooks are quite hard pieces to mobilize effectively, especially if you don't have open lines, or like rooks are really kind of like the last piece to join the game a lot of the time, other than the king. So yeah, I think that using your rooks correctly, like rook lifts like this, can be really, really powerful, and it's hard sometimes to find rook lifts, I find.
Yeah, it's hard to find, and making them at the right moment as well, because I guess here already your pieces are up. Often you can maybe do something like f4, rook f3, but I remember there was a game that you were looking at yesterday where the black's rook ended up on b4 or something.
Yeah,
so
it was
also
the
your rook can
Benoni.
be right, yeah. So also your even if you do go for rook lifts, your rook can end up in the most awkward position, and then you end up maybe having to find a way out of there and might even lose it or trap it.
Yes, absolutely. That rook yesterday that was such a powerful and annoying piece ended up getting stuck. It was completely trapped, and there was just it ended up having to be an exchange sacrifice. So wasn't the end of the world, but yeah, you definitely want to make sure that it's the same kind of principle with not activating your queen too early, right? Like you can activate it, but it can become a target.
Yeah.
We had somebody in chat asking where is this tournament happening. So it's happening in the Isle of Wight, which is an island in the UK. What's up, Lorena? I have been to the Isle of Wight. Have you?
No, I haven't.
So I'm an Isle of Wight expert. I've been a whole one time.
Okay.
For like a long weekend. So,
nice.
But when I went, it was like September, so it was very different time of year. It was still pretty warm. And I was thinking about it because Katie asked me, like, what are the things that you would be doing between your games in the Isle of Wight? And I said, at this time of year, it's pretty cold. So you're not really going to be going to the beach or anything.
Yeah.
But I did tell her there was an alpaca farm where you get to lead the alpacas around. Yeah. And you get to feed the alpacas. This is like huge. This is a huge draw.
That's actually so interesting.
Yeah.
Funny / interesting, because I was talking about alpacas yesterday. I saw something with a series where they went to an alpaca farm, and also the previous term that I was commentating on, Jonathan O'Connor, he owns 5 alpacas. He has a
what?
Yeah,
he owns alpacas.
He has 5 alpacas. He started off with one, then it needed another one. Like he wanted a friend for the alpaca, and then he just got a lot more.
Okay. Wow. So, I mean, he's living my dream. But actually, I realized that of all the weird things that I decided to do when I went to the Isle of Wight, I did play crazy golf.
Did you?
Yeah. Because I went with my ex-boyfriend, the same one that taught me chess, but this was before I learned chess. And his grandmother had been from the Isle of Wight. So he had spent a lot of his childhood there. And so we visited. And he loved crazy golf, so we went and did crazy golf. And I actually think that would be a really good thing to do between chess rounds, because it's like a small amount of physical activity, like very light, but it's outside, you're doing stuff like without having to use your brain too much. I think these are the perfect things to do actually when you're at a chess tournament. Yeah. So I would be doing that.
Once. I'm not very good.
I'm terrible. I'm really bad. But I think the best thing is if you're playing with people who are a similar skill level, and then it doesn't matter how bad you are.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I would be doing. And I think that I mean, if it's anything like Jersey, there's going to be a lot of beautiful woodland and like lots of beautiful like beach walks and stuff like this at any time of year, even if it's February and even if it's cold. But it's actually really big. Like you need a car. So this is like a problem that I had when I was there, is I just massively underestimated how big the Isle of Wight was. Because like I tried to call for a taxi because like I don't think they had Uber. This was back in like, I don't know, maybe 2018, 2019. And I tried to call for an Uber, for a taxi, and this guy was like, well, I'm in this part of the island. And I was like, okay, like, so what? Like, come and pick me up. Like, I didn't say this to him, but like, I was like, I don't really understand, because he was like, well, no, I can't come and pick you up because I work in this part of the island. And I was like, the island is that
What?
big?
Really?
Like, the island is that big that you can't come and pick me up from
What?
your
I
part
didn't
of
know
it. Like,
it was so big.
yeah, so
It's bigger than Jersey.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than Jersey. Jersey's tiny. It's much bigger. But yeah, it's actually quite big. So I didn't get to explore as much as I would have liked to, but I did enjoy my trip there. I think that it's a pretty good venue for a chess tournament, good location. And yeah, like Lorena in chat says, it sounds like a great mental palate cleanser between rounds to do something like Crazy Golf, or go to like just do some kind of physical outdoor something. Yeah.
You just want better weather.
Yeah, that's true. I've got chat saying that the beaches near the venue are really nice. So I'm not surprised at all. Like, I'm not surprised by this. I'm just, yeah, I would be a little bit unhappy about the temperature, because if it's anything like France, it's been pretty cold recently.
Yeah, in Germany it's been so cold as well. It's even colder than November and December.
Yeah, here too. Actually, past couple of days we're very lucky. It's been up to 10 degrees, but before that it was around 0. Yeah.
Yeah, here it's -4.
Wow. Yeah.
It's really cold.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
And because I'm from somewhere, like I'm also from small island with beaches, like going for a walk on the beach in winter is something I've done a lot. And it chills you to the bone.
Yeah.
like it really does. Like, you need earmuffs, like your ears freeze, and like you need to be really, really wrapped up.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice to play a chess tournament in a place with beautiful scenery. Like, it makes a big difference.
It does, especially just even going out for fresh air, even if it is cold. It's nice to have, to get some inspiration at least from your nice surroundings. Otherwise, because usually the playing halls, I mean, sometimes there are nice playing halls, but a lot of the times it's in, I don't know, a gym, or like here it looks like it's something similar like that, and they're not, and there's just a lot of people, and you can get claustrophobic. There's it's stuffy.
Yeah, no, I think it's in a big playing hall, but I think we've been seeing people walking around with their coats on, so I think it's actually quite cold in the playing hall.
This always happens. It's usually the air conditioning goes on, like the arbiters blast the air conditioning, and it gets really, really cold.
It's like a rite of passage for a chess tournament for it to be cold, you know? So we have best move Queen B5. I guess this does completely prevent any Rook A4 Rook lift ideas, and it also does just threaten B2, like very basic threat here of this pawn. And I'm not sure how we best defend it, because obviously we can't push it, because then we hang C3. Yeah. And we don't want to play like a move like Rook C1, because then we hang A5, Rook B1, sorry, because we hang A5, and also it's a very passive move. And yeah, I think it's not fun. And somebody in chat says, why not play E4? Well, I think if E4, you have Rook A4, which is this move that I suggested earlier, and this is pretty nice. It's a pretty nice move. I guess Queen D5. And you can either take, maybe. Yeah, you can actually just take, because this is pretty forcing line, and you don't end up winning any material. And now you have, I think, a very nice position as white.
Yeah, and D6 is also gonna drop at some point.
Yeah, D6 is very weak. You can like keep this B pawn weak as well, and this transformation just doesn't look good for black. So yeah, like if this Rook A4 idea wasn't possible, I think E4 would be a threat, because it would then win material. So should we take a look at Bobby Cheng?
Yep.
Perfect. So we've had just a little bit happen. Why is there a queen on A2? Okay.
Also, earlier Laz was saying that he plays for, I think both of them play for his 4NCL team.
Yeah,
Um,
Borna does, and some of the other people that we've
oh
been
yeah,
seeing.
and Yang
Yeah.
Fan and Maciej, the Polish player.
Mm-hmm.
Not Bobby Cheng, because he would have to fly all the way from Australia.
Okay, so we kind of got to around here, I think. This all looks very normal development. And I guess we should show why you don't take on b7.
Okay, yeah, let's do it. Usually
So
these are poison pawns and your queen gets trapped.
exactly. And I think the key here is that white hasn't castled yet. So now there's this knight b4 move, and the queen is cut off. But anyway, she wouldn't be a good defender. But we can't defend these squares, and you're going to end up getting forked. I guess rook c1, but you're not having a fun time.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually bishop
It'll take some time to castle as well.
Yeah. So usually we don't grab b pawns unless there's still a king in the center, I would say, because then you have the threat of taking with check, that kind of thing. But yeah, here we definitely just need to prioritize getting our king safe. So a3 is played to prevent any knights hopping in here. So I guess actually this is a way of threatening to take on b7.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So that's quite cool actually, because directly correlates to what we just mentioned, but this knight b4 idea is very strong, and it's nice to see that we're renewing possibilities. Knight a5 with a tempo on the queen, not only attacking but defending, so there's no way to take this, and the queen hides on a2, which is
interesting
fun.
place for the queen. Usually your bishop goes from c4 to a2, but now your queen is there.
Yep. And bishop
not the worst. I
bishop
mean,
to
you're
e6.
putting pressure on d5, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't really want it over there.
Yeah, and especially with this bishop coming back here, now the queen is not gonna live here forever, I don't think.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick look at Keith, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah.
So Keith and Sebastian, we haven't had. Okay, actually no, this is new. Like we didn't even see bishop a6 before, did we? Or we did?
No, we didn't.
No, this is all new. So this is fun, and actually, like this bishop a6 idea comes up in a lot of openings when black is playing with these light squared pawn structures, because you've got to find a way to activate that piece.
The idea is usually to force the queen to go to c2, and then you go back to b7, and the queen is not, I guess, covering d4 anymore, or you don't want to have to play queen c2.
Yeah, this is nice, and then the bishop is very strong. That's very fun. Okay, so instead we just saw b3, so saying that we don't want to move our queen. Bishop to b4 was played, and bishop to d2, offering a trade. Black says no, and a bishop to g2 fianchetto. Castles. So I'm guessing this bishop will come back to b7 very soon as well. I guess here the annoyance is that you didn't get your like tempo that you hoped to gain with queen c2.
Yeah, and also, well, I guess you still gained the b3, so it's still similar ideas, because the bishop on d2 is not on b2, so b3 looks a little bit awkward. But also here you're stopping white from maybe pushing the e-pawn, so white will have to play rook e1 if they want to push the e-pawn, and the bishop on a6 is doing a bit more than on b7, but later on you probably will bring it to b7, but not, maybe you'll wait until a few moves, but I guess you'll have to protect on d5 as well.
Have you played this opening?
No, but I was teaching it to someone a few weeks ago.
Oh, so you're an expert. Perfect.
Well, not exactly expert, but I The only thing that I recommend, well, not the only thing, but it's hard to find a good opening against, not a good opening, but something that you might enjoy against d4. And I play the Benko
Yeah.
Gambit, and it's not maybe very easy to play if you're not comfortable with giving away a pawn. And King's Indian I stopped recommending because it's kind of suffocating.
I think it's very hard to play for lower rated players.
King's Indian?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard. Well, I think it's easy to learn, but
absolutely, but to actually execute well, I think for lower rated
players, everywhere,
even
higher rated players.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we did see a failed King's Indian from a high. Well,
did you?
Like, well, they was it from Sebastian? No, I don't think it was. But yeah, basically, Black just started playing on the queen side for no reason, and then things obviously didn't go their way.
Yeah, always it's that case. I stopped playing it after I started playing H3 for White against the King's Indian, and then I just realized that. Well, I always knew that it's hard to play, but I didn't know what to put in the space to change it to. But the Nimzo, I think is a good. Well, it is the best opening to play against d4.
Yeah, Nimzo is just a very complex opening though as well. And I would agree that it's very hard to find something that you like against d4. And I think that in almost every response to d4, the problem is that you can feel very suffocated. Like it feels like you don't have enough space, and it's because like in these openings you so often need to get like some liberation with c5 at some point, and because White in a lot of these d4 openings is trying to play e4 at some point, and White usually does get to play e4 if you don't know what you're doing against them, so very easy to feel suffocated. But obviously I don't think that will happen at this level.
Yeah.
So knight e5 and bishop back to b7, bishop to f4. And we have some knight maneuvers now to gain a tempo on the bishop. So what do? Do you move your bishop? Do you...
Yeah, this is hard because where are you going to move your bishop? There's no good squares.
Right. So do you just allow knight takes and then g takes? Or...
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, the only square is e3, maybe d2, but actually d2 then d4 is hanging, so you only have one square e3. I guess the move is chosen for you.
I have this crazy line from the computer. It's not the top line, but it's on par with the top line in terms of evaluation. And it's h4, knight takes, g takes, and you just completely sacrifice your kingside pawn structure because you're going to try and attack on the king side, I think.
Yeah, I guess you could use the g file. You can always play king h1, rook g1.
Yeah, and you're just gonna allow this pawn to be grabbed if you want. Well, like there's not really any way to save it.
Can you push it or? Oh yeah, I guess you already played queen d3.
Yeah, but I mean apparently this is now very bad. I guess in exchange, so what I would assume is in exchange for your kingside pawn structure, you need to have extremely active pieces and you need to start attacking very quickly. So a move like...
Yeah, and I guess you are threatening to take on e4.
Yeah, exactly. You are, and you're threatening to maybe get your pawn back as well. And if knight takes, I don't think we take here, then I think there are going to be problems with like maybe even...
Oh yeah, you lose
F6
your knight, yeah.
And attack the pinned piece.
But the knight on e5 is such a nice piece, so I guess it's worth it maybe.
Yeah.
But still means, yeah, still scary, especially if that bishop on b7 gets activated.
Yeah, and now I guess we can see the compensation. We can see what Stockfish was after because we're attacking lots of pawns, we're attacking the king, and it's not so bad. I guess this is a very creative response. We win the pawn back this way, maybe. I still think I would feel a bit uncomfortable though with my king. What about you? Or not?
Yeah, if I'm not using the G file for a rook and my opponent is using it to attack, then yeah, it is very uncomfortable.
Yeah. I guess actually knight to G4 is very, very nice. And then, no, I don't like it.
Yeah, it's not nice, especially because of that bishop on D5.
No, I don't like it. I'm trying to convince myself to like it, but I don't like it. But yeah, it's funny that Stockfish was quite in favor of this.
Yeah.
Best move though, apparently something like Rook C2, which is not very human. And instead we have much more normal move played, bishop to E3 and now bishop to B4. I think any move you play other than moving the bishop is like some crazy Stockfish line, which doesn't seem to actually achieve anything directly.
Yeah.
And just completely compromises your pawn structure. I mean, this pawn structure can be good sometimes with like king h1, rook g1, just as you were saying. But like you have to be in the mood for it as well. And you have to be
and prepared with all
also
of your pieces.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't really have the pieces ready yet.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think I would want to play that against Sebastian Bogner.
Not.
I think he's an attacking player. So
yeah.
So, but that was a very interesting line with h4 anyway, and fun to look at. I think that a lot of people take the engine's word as like law, and
also the
chess.com
engine isn't the best engine anyway. It often doesn't go. It doesn't go to deep enough depth.
That's true. I have depth 18, so it's not bad, but yeah, absolutely, it's still a cloud engine. It's not going to be the strongest. Still be stronger than us, but I think sometimes we have better ideas than the engine. This is my hubris showing. Let's take a look at Alexandra Prado, because she was in a bit of a sticky situation before, and we've had quite a lot of advancement in her position. So after queen to d7, we had knight back, knight bc3, queen c6, simply threatening checkmate. Now, if Alex really wanted to go and have a rest, she could play like knight d4 and hang checkmate and the knight at the same time. But she's
more like a panic attack.
But she played knight to e4, so this is a creative way of trying to deal with the checkmate threat. But it does just seem like it loses a pawn. And so I'm not really sure about it. So we've got knight takes e4,
I guess she just really didn't like f3. But it's gonna come in anyway.
F3 with the tempo on the queen is her idea. So she gave up a pawn to get this. So basically now g4 doesn't come immediately. And bishop.
Yeah, I guess g5 really spooked her.
Yeah, and I get this. Actually, she gets a little bit more activity, but rook g8 is probably going to be played anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You're just hoping you wouldn't play it, yeah.
Yeah, and now knight.
No, this is not looking good.
Yeah, this is looking a bit spooky. So we've got g4, and we've got king to f2, long castles. Okay. So
and she's very
low tough spot. Yeah, she spent a long think to play knight bc3 was 16 minutes, to play bishop c3 was 8, and she had already spent some time in the opening. And we might be a couple of moves behind because I think there's delay on the live board. But I guess you can say that the opponent's opening preparation very much paid off. He's got quite a significant advantage out of the opening. And I mean, this is not like simple to play. And I guess like trying to get this tempo on the queen makes some sense. But she did give up a pawn here. And I think it's actually also very interesting how much the engine preferred c4 than knight back. I guess you continue to have threats if the queen moves away. This is important that the knight stays an active piece, and that a6 would be like a very crucial tempo that black just probably isn't going to waste because black's just going for checkmate every move. So now there's something here she didn't like about this immediate g4.
I mean, it's just very scary to deal with. They're threatening to take the pawn, and you have to move. I guess there's not many. You have to move the knight to defend it with the queen. Knight g3 would, or knight f4.
Yeah. So she ended up playing knight g3 in her variation anyway. So let's make this the move that we would consider here. And now I guess there's something here that she didn't like. And I wonder if it's just like
h5, yeah.
h5. Maybe. Okay, I'm very surprised that d4 is +1.
Well, I guess if you can
I
get
was looking at bishop c3.
Yeah, I was also looking at that. But I guess if you can get the pawn to d5, then you're starting to put pressure on Black's king, and you need to close up that diagonal. And if you swap off the c pawn, then that's also weakening the king if the king castles queenside. But yeah, here, this looks good. Once the diagonal is closed,
you can't take because of the king, yeah. So I guess maybe here you castle instead. Oh no, you can't. That hangs the queen.
Oh right.
So this is why c4 was so much better, because of these d5 ideas and the tactical motifs that come with saving the king.
Not very easy to see.
No, you have to see from a distance that after d4, d5, that like actually your king is quite unhappy now, and that the knight here is a very strong piece. And this is a lot to look at when you're considering, I think, in this position is, oh my God, my opponent is attacking me like a crazy man. You know, like this is a completely different headspace that you have to be in. But I think that she didn't play it in a completely unreasonable way, but she just doesn't get the active counterplay that the computer wants you to find in order to retain equality.
Yeah.
Which is, it's unfortunate. So we've had a follow-up
The time
move.
situation is also just adding to the
yes,
annoyingness.
So we've had bishop to f6 and rook to d7 played.
Yeah, it's annoying. We would want an open c file or something, because we haven't started an attack with white.
And I guess if we had played c4, then we could have the idea of even playing like b4 to sacrifice and then pushing more. Like if we had a rook here potentially.
Yeah.
Like this idea, like vague idea, but it's much harder with this pawn still on c2. Yeah, I'm like, I feel very sympathetically towards her in this position, because it feels like you didn't get a chance to breathe from the start of the game, and you've just been attacked the whole time. Yeah, okay. It's not a fun position to be in,
especially when the tournament hasn't started off the way you want it to.
Right, and you're playing a clearly very talented child who's used 7 minutes of the clock.
Yeah, all children usually do. They finish with more time on the clock than what they started with.
Yeah. They just want to win quickly. They want to go home. They want to play like Fortnite, I guess. I don't know. But they play extremely quickly, and some of them it works out. Some of them they play quickly and badly, but this guy's playing quickly and very well. So
yeah,
it's impressive. Let's take a look at board 1 for a moment. So we were over here, and the moves that were played were queen to d2. So this is not a candidate move that we considered here, but it's actually the top engine move, which is really interesting. I guess just because these dark squares are so weak, as you mentioned earlier, Diana.
And then if you can get a rook lift to h3, although the bishop is covering and the knight is covering e3, but if you can attack h7, then checkmate is unstoppable.
Yes, yeah. And you know what? I watched this video yesterday of this very famous French streamer who had just started learning chess and he's having lessons with Blitzstream, who is the most popular, I think, French chess streamer. And he said the aim of the game is to control the center. And I just said to myself, no, the aim of the game is to checkmate the king. And like this is what you learn though, is like in chess you have so many objectives, and the way that I've like tried to describe them to non-chess players before is like you have side quests before you complete the main objective of checkmating the king. You have all of these little side quests that you have to go down before you can reach the end, because something that you see a lot of beginners doing is they go straight from e4, e5, knight f3 to playing knight g5, queen h5, and trying to get checkmate. And they forget about the middle game. And the middle game is like the plot of chess. If you think about chess as a story with the beginning, a middle, and an end, the middle is like the chunky bit where all of the meat is. It's the really important like creative bit where we develop storylines. Right? Yeah. And it takes a while to really come to like grasp this idea, because we learn, the aim of the game is checkmate the king, but you can't just speed run checkmate the king.
Unless you're Alexandra Prado's opponent.
Yes, yeah. And that, I think that's why one of the reasons it really bothers me when people do just try to start checkmating from the first moment, because
you just need to not let them.
I know, because in some ways it's very principled, because that's the aim of the game. And in other ways it feels really like you're trying to just speed run the whole story. Yeah. And like the beauty of chess is
kill off the main character too quick.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. I think people view chess differently, and that's one of the really interesting things about it. So here we have queen to d2, king to g7, which is an extremely principled move. We're not letting the queen coming in on the dark squares. Rook d1, and now bishop to g4. So actually, when I considered this move in my head, I instantly thought f3. But h3 is what was played, and I think that like they're both possible. I understand the reticence in playing a move like f3, I guess because I play the French a lot. I'm not super afraid of moving my f pawn around my king, but like actually h3 here actually did just allow black to do what they wanted and trade the bishop for this knight. So
I'm surprised that that's what they would want. But yeah, I'm surprised that actually that's what white wants, I guess.
Right, I was surprised as well, but this is exactly what they wanted, and I guess this knight is really
this is
strong.
what we were talking about earlier. It's just the bishop on c8 is not, it doesn't have much scope.
Exactly, and it was looking quite unlikely to get to trade your light squared bishop for white's light squared bishop. And so now that we've taken off, a lot of the minor pieces, even though white's light squared bishop has been very nice, it's unlikely that you're going to get checkmated at this point.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. You're not going to be checkmated. And so having this knight seems to be a bit of an advantage. But now c4 is possible because there is no knight b4 with a tempo on the bishop. So it wasn't played. c4 wasn't played at any point, which is interesting because it was so favored by the engine for so many moves. And the knight ended up moving itself because black decided, I don't want your bishop. That's very fun. Not wanting to go into this heavy pieces endgame, not wanting to get rid of it. Because the main imbalance, right, is that we have bishop for knight. I guess we've got a slight pawn structure imbalance, but whilst these minor pieces stay on, that's going to be the big difference.
Yeah, I guess also I don't think you really want to trade pieces with, well, actually, with black, I was going to say you don't really want to trade pieces because the bishop might end up being better if you can get it, since the on the queen side, black's pawns are on white squares, and a3 now fixes the pawn on light square, so the bishop might be able to attack it in an endgame.
Yep.
I predict this game is going to end up being a draw because it's going to be very hard to convert it with white, even if you do trade pieces. But
okay, draw. We shouldn't move on.
Like game over. Also after a4, now we have a similar idea, like you said in the previous game, rook a5. We have another rook left idea.
Yes,
maybe.
This would be nice to get the rook into the game, especially because this king is not on the back rank, so like there aren't really any worries about checks. So bringing the rook into the game is possible.
Okay, knight e6 was played. Yeah.
Yes. Apparently there's some interesting things going on in Jovanka's game, so maybe we could
go and take a look. Do it. We haven't had a look yet at her game.
No, we haven't, and we were following her for the past couple of rounds. So
she's also on Last Keepers for NCL team.
True, but she is kind of like a national treasure of the UK when it comes to chess and chess commentary, and she's so good, and she's been playing such good chess this tournament so far. And so the accelerated pan of attack, I never understood this opening, because why were you so willing to give yourself this isolated d pawn so early on in the game? Like, this is exactly what happens. And basically, I've never seen it with this queen a4 check idea, though. It's very interesting. And I guess it's to try to retain your pawn for a bit, but it seems very strange because usually, like, the normal ideas are that you just develop and then basically you allow black to recapture your pawn. And you play d4 and you go into an isolated queen's pawn position where white will essentially just try to checkmate you, and black will try to go into an endgame playing against the pawn. So queen a4 is not super common. Okay, it's the second move, but it's played in 1/3 of the number of games as the main move, so it's much less common. I'm sure Jovanka is very familiar with it. She plays her openings extremely well, and she sticks to what she knows usually.
Yeah.
So
you either there's two types of chess players. Ones that play like everything to avoid learning anything. That's me. Mm-hmm. And then there's people that just stick to what they know and just like improve on it with every game. And I wish I was one of those players. Like, I remember when I was younger and I was learning my first few openings, and then I would change. I was always encouraged to just play something different because people are going to prepare against you, and you want to have a different weapon. And then someone did tell me, you want to play something really well and just know it better than your opponent, no matter how much they prepare. But it's just hard to allow that to come on the board when you're thinking, well, if they prepare against me, they're just going to know what I'm going to do anyway. So yeah, I really admire people that can let that happen and just be okay with it and play really good chess.
Yeah, and we saw Jovanka yesterday. She played like a London, and so she loves these like d4, c3, or d5, c6 kind of pawn structures. She goes for them in literally every possible opening, and she's just a master of it. She just plays it so well. She is the Loki, the goat of the Kara, absolutely. I have her book on the Kara and the Slav because I used to play the Kara, but I realized it's too hard for me. And so here I was initially thinking immediately like instant move knight b6, but actually a6 is played and it's so much better because it's actually so much more forcing. We have the direct threat of b5, a pawn fork, so the queen has to move. Very, very forcing. And I guess the point is after knight to b6, you don't really even want to take this because you would fix these pawns, and we don't want to fix these pawns because you're just giving white an extra free pawn, right? So there's no point in going for this. So a6 is played, is the main move. Queen a3, b6, and we will get our pawn back slowly, hopefully. And it's really interesting, this variation that white has gone for, where they basically just do everything possible to try to keep this pawn.
Yeah.
I
guess it is your extra pawn.
Yeah, this is true. Okay, we have chat saying the rook is unprotected, so b5 isn't a threat.
Oh, yeah. if you can, it's the pawn is pinned.
Yeah, that's true. The pawn.
But I
the
guess
pawn
knight b6 is
pinned.
a threat. You don't want to. Wait, but actually, after b5, if they take, the knight b6 attacks and defends
Yeah,
the rook.
exactly. So like if castles,
Yeah,
b5 is lost because of knight
yeah, knight b6. Yeah,
b6. Yeah, so I was right. There's just a bit of nuance to it.
which we figured out.
Yeah, definitely. This is very nice. So combination of the two ideas. So moving on, we have castles from white, bishop to b7, rook to e1. These are just very, very normal developing moves. And I guess like the annoying thing for black in this position is that usually you end up like getting to play e6 at some point, but here you don't want to, and so you feel a bit maybe more cramped, potentially. Bishop to d2, b5, bishop to b3. And I guess this is actually not ideal for white either. Like, who wants to have their queen on a3? Really?
Yeah, doesn't look much better than the queen on a2 that we saw earlier.
That's true.
Yeah, Jovanka's position is really nice. She's a pawn down, but her pieces look like they are working together.
Yeah. And we're still in like a kind of theory here. Like there are like 6 games in this position, and knight b6 is always the move. So I think she probably knows exactly what she's doing, but
I'm sure she's written a chessable course all about this line.
But actually here she did spend 20 minutes. So that's interesting. She spent 20 minutes and she decided to go for bishop takes knight to damage the pawn structure around the king. This is very interesting. Okay, and she ends up also having an isolated d pawn. So it kind of cancels out white's isolated d pawn. That's a very interesting way of playing the Panov or the accelerated Panov, because I'm an isolated queen's pawn hater. Like I don't play these positions because they really do favor the brave attacking player who's not going for the end game. They want to go for a checkmate, and that's just something I have to work on. You know, I'm not quite there yet with being this attacking player.
Yeah, I would say I'm similar. I actually used to play the first opening against Caracan. I learned was the Panov attack, but I quickly changed because I didn't. It's because I was playing the Alpin, which is you also get similar pawn structures. But if you don't, I guess usually with isolated queen's pawns, if you the idea is that you want to you have more active pieces since you have more space, so you want to try to attack. But if you don't get the attack, then you just end up with an isolated pawn, and then it's hard to deal with.
Yes, exactly. You really have to have like some kind of like sense of like something inside you where you have the sense of feeling of playing these positions where you're playing incredibly energetic, like active chess. You're going for the attack, and it comes to you like obviously through hard work and study. But some people are naturally have tendencies towards attacking, and they love to play, you know, these isolated queen's pawn positions. And it's not me. And I think that if you aren't this kind of player, then openings like the Panov don't feel fun to play. And I think that the way that Jovanka's playing makes perfect sense to me. Like, you damage the pawn structure, and now she just has a very nice position. I actually really like it. So you have knight takes b5 because there's still a pin on the rook. So she's giving back the pawn, like she's happy to be down a pawn basically.
Yeah, and also white's pawn structure is just not great.
Yeah,
on the king side.
And now she's allowed this bishop takes h6. Okay.
Wait, why is it bad?
Well, after takes, I guess you win another pawn here.
Okay. Is that so bad?
If takes.
I guess if you trade everything, it's not good.
Yeah, this doesn't look
okay,
good.
and that bishop on b3 is really strong.
Yeah, that feels very uncomfortable. So she spent 15 minutes here and played bishop h6. I wonder what the move was. Just a takes b and then exchange sacre. Oh, you can't take it because actually the knight. And then here. Yeah, actually, this is really tactically interesting. So queen takes, knight takes, rook takes.
Okay,
bishop,
and you have how many?
takes.
You have a rook and a piece.
Rook and a bishop for the queen.
And a pawn.
So this is what she had to go for. This is actually really interesting because it's so imbalanced. But it's not that easy to play either because as soon as if your queen tries to go anywhere, then GG.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, I guess the bishops are just much stronger.
Yeah, you have to start with something like king 2g7 so that your queen is liberated and just the threats are there, right? White gets a ton of activity.
How are you even going to defend that? Oh, you can play bishop e7 to block the rook.
I don't know. It's not fun. It's really not fun.
Yeah, I mean, always with these imbalanced positions, if you don't have more pieces with your queen, it's the queen can't really do much on her own.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no checks because the bishop is such a good defender and it's actually very annoying to play. So yeah, this is a very challenging move from the opponent. And bishop takes h6. I guess the opponent is calculating lots of things here. It's lots of things like rook e4 is a move as well to look at. I suppose it's quite interesting because if takes, then you can take here. And now there isn't any of this going on because the back rank is defended. But this bishop is terrifying.
Your dark squares are not looking good.
Yeah, your dark squares are really not looking good. So this is like my worst nightmare position for having knights versus bishops because these knights are so much worse.
Yeah,
knights are really only good if they are
if the position is closed,
outposted, and but even in a more open or semi-open position, if your knights can't be stably capped, outposted somewhere, they're almost useless, you know?
Yeah.
These knights are just so vulnerable to any kind of attack, and it's not easy for them to find homes. So this is a bit uncomfortable for Jovanka, unfortunately. Should we take a look at board one? Would you like? So board one is actually the camera that we have up anyway. And we have this transformation with... we have had this transformation with bishop takes e2 that we talked about earlier.
Oh, yeah.
And rook f8... And yes, this is kind of where we were up to going into this endgame with the two different minor pieces, fixing the pawn structure on the light squares. And we have a little rook lift to e3.
Nice.
So
the whole theme of today's stream.
The theme of the stream is rook lifts today. You know, somehow there always just manages to be something that comes up
I know, it's true. I think it's wait, what is there's something there's a term for this. Something bias? Oh, confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias, yeah. I think that you're right. Yeah, this is maybe just confirmation bias. Because actually, I think maybe the theme yesterday was also...
rook lifts?
was also rook lifts, yeah.
Okay, but I think in that one there was a random...
in general.
There was a random rook on b5, so I think that one makes a bit more sense. But no, I mean, today there was a4, a5, and now... Yeah, I guess we are very focused on it.
Yeah. I guess another theme maybe is going to be knight versus bishop. We'll see how some of the other games go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
get another bison.
Mhm.
But still, this is just looking very equal because the knight is decent. Maybe the bishop on f3 isn't great, but it's still annoying on that diagonal. You can't really push your pawns. You can't go b5. If you push the c pawn, then b7 is hanging. If the rooks are traded, I don't know. It's hard to do something, but they are always like above 2300. It's all about that grind. It's
Yeah,
not
and you
so
know
much
what?
tactics.
I am gonna say something maybe slightly controversial. I hate playing positions like this. Like, there's no you know, like the magic of the middle game that I was talking about earlier, like the magic in the story. I think a lot of it comes from the mess and like the
Yeah,
endless options of the middle game, right? And
it's
all of
just
these
your
possible
literature
variations,
degree coming
right?
out.
Yeah. And
Your love
here
for
there's
the chaos.
yeah, I want the chaos, and here there's like any chaos you create is just going to be bad for you,
Yeah, and
right?
that's always the case. When you push, you just end up getting into worse positions. Yeah,
Exactly. And you have to be solid and you have to be patient and you have to be calm. And
yeah.
apparently none of these are my strengths.
Mine
So
neither.
yeah. Maybe we'll move on because we've had rook a5 and bishop e2, but nothing super exciting, honestly, happening right now. Maybe we can look at Alexandra Prado just because I think that her game is moving quite quickly
Okay.
and she's making some progress. Actually, so she played my idea of c4. Maybe she'll try to play for b4 and like some kind of way to open up the black king. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the only thing that you can go for because
Mm-hmm.
black is also attacking you and you need to do something.
Yeah, and rook g6 was played with a tempo on the bishop.
Yeah.
Bishop b2. I mean, this this bishop f6 move really was just a one move threat. Like it looked like a nice place for it, but unfortunately you can't support the bishop there. It can't stay there. So bishop to h6 now, and queen to e2. Rook to d8, rook a d1, f5, and a3. I mean, she's definitely got a plan to attack, but it feels slow. Like a3,
Even if you do get
b4.
b4 in, you need your rooks on those files anyway. And White's
Hmm.
king is opening up so quickly.
Yeah, and you know what the thing is that even if you allow, yeah, it's tough. It's a tough position when the engine's top line is queen takes e6
Sacrificing the
check,
queen.
giving
Yeah.
up the queen. You know that you have a
G
difficult
takes f3 is just
situation.
coming and it's
Yes, this is tough. This is really tough. Let's just like imagine that the opponent doesn't do anything for a little bit and see kind of like what counterplay Alexandra could get with b4, because you never know. They could allow b4.
yeah.
This is her only chance. So if takes and takes and bishop g5. These are all good moves. Is there anything here? I'm not sure. I guess bishop g5 is also very good because it guards these checks. So it has a secondary purpose, you know? Oh, sorry, bishop f4 is good because it guards these checks. Bishop g5
Yeah, and
doesn't.
also when you double up the rooks, you're just threatening to take on g3.
Yeah. So
Oh,
actually, if this
if you
is,
can trade that rook, then the black king is a lot weaker, yeah.
yeah, if this kind of position is allowed, I guess there's always taking with the queen though. And c5 kind of thing. Doesn't have to be taken or anything. I think it's going to be hard for her to get some counterplay. Like this looks like there's almost something, but actually this dark squared bishop is so strong. Like we can't even put a rook on
Yeah.
c1 if she She wants to. Yeah, this is tough. Like I think that her plan makes sense, but
Yeah, it's the only thing you can go for.
yeah, very challenging position. And she's very, very low on the clock. Okay. Maybe we have this queen on a2. Not a lot has changed for Bobby Cheng. His queen is still on a2. Knight to g5 with a tempo on the bishop. I always like to do this if I can. And this is kind of nice, right? Because the bishop has just hopped here, like, and then in the next move it has to hop back.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice. You get this little tempo, and then I guess quite soon after you'll probably play h6 and then put the bishop right back where it was, right?
Yeah, no
on
point.
e6. It's like a dance sometimes with the pieces. It's fun to watch. Okay, so bishop to e2 and c6 is played. I guess there is no rush. There's no rush for this.
What did Jovanka's opponent play? Did he take the bishop?
Let me take a little look. Yes, bishop takes h6 was played. So bishop takes h6, queen takes h6, and knight takes d6. So this is the perfect computer-approved line, unfortunately, for Jovanka. So she doesn't go for this trade. This is good. She gives a check instead. And now it's her turn again, and she's having a think. So she was playing very quickly the last couple of moves. Like, you don't play bishop h6 here if you haven't calculated stuff, you know?
Yeah, she just had other things, I guess,
for no
that she was worried about.
Yeah, and so she's definitely got her line here, and I don't think she overlooked that this gives up another pawn. So now she's got a couple of options, I suppose. You can just take this probably, otherwise you have too much pressure. I think knight f6 is what you kind of want to play, but it doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, no, knight takes f7 is just too crushing.
This is very bad. Like, you have to step out of this, and then the queen is
also,
yeah, so it's not possible. So you have to take, really. And now you're maybe in a bit of a pickle. Maybe she just saw queen d8 and was like, this is going to be fine.
Yeah, and like Laz was also saying, she spent some time probably not liking taking the queen, and then there was not much left. And also, when you're low on time, you kind of just have to make a decision, and it's hard when there's multiple things that don't look good, and then you have to choose between the worst.
Yeah, and it's very hard when you're like you said, half an hour down and you're not getting time. So she really doesn't want to go under like 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because she's only on move 22.
Yeah.
So even if this was, a tournament with time control, having used an hour by move 22 would only leave you with half an hour to make 20 more moves, and it's not great.
And there's no
definitely been in that position.
Is there no added time? Oh, okay.
No added time.
So
yeah, I know.
That's surprising when there's only one round a day.
Yeah. Oh, well, actually, a couple of the days there's 2 rounds.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But there's only commentary for 1 round a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And today there's only 1 round?
Yeah, I believe there's maybe 2 today.
Okay.
I guess queen to e7 is just a bit of an uncomfortable move. But then maybe queen takes d3 is possible. You get back one of your pawns. And you have to keep defending. But then, this looks very, very not fun.
Yeah, white pieces are just so
Yeah,
strong.
this
So
bishop is extremely strong, and this knight is actually just an observer. Like he's a silent observer in the game. He is not playing.
and has
You
nowhere
gotta
to
get
move
these
as well.
pieces in. I know, and he can't go anywhere. This is what I was saying. Knights really need to be like, they need to have a support. Knights and pawns are
Yeah.
friends. They're really friends. Okay, so I mean, she's thinking, she's deciding. She probably realized that she just has to play this, and she's probably unhappy about that. But sometimes you don't have a choice. Maybe we'll just take a very quick look over at Mr. Dodgy's game.
Yeah.
Just because. So it's a open dragon, and we can skip through this opening because it's very standard stuff. For those of us who are dragon players, who I'm not. Mr. Dodgy likes these kind of dragon positions. I find them very scary. But whatever, I think they're scary for both
we have
sides,
the same
if that's
side
possible.
castling again.
Yeah, we have same side castling again, but actually I like White's position here. I don't know about you. Like, even though the bishop, almost all the pieces are on the back rank, like I actually really like this. Maybe you go for like, I don't know, F4 at some point. Yeah. I was
maybe I guess the rook is on e1. Maybe it's not so good.
I was like really tentatively looking through the engine lines to see if any of them said F4 and none of them did. But I was like, yeah, surely you have to go for F4.
With the rook on e1, I think it's not great.
Yeah, this is true. It's not as strong. Knight to c4. E3. I guess you just want to dull this bishop, but it seems a bit of a passive move, I guess. And then bishop. Oh, okay. So bishop takes d5 is strong, apparently. And actually, I allowed this kind of thing to happen. I had one dragon I played against this one time, and I allowed this kind of trade to happen for my knight. And then this pawn ended up actually not being very strong.
Yeah, it becomes a target.
Yeah, so knight b6, and then you can't really play this because this is over attacked. It's not defended enough times. So this actually wasn't what happened. Mr. Dodgy didn't trade his bishop. He does like bishops, so I guess. Yeah. And now this move rook to e8 does seem like you don't have many options. Like everything is developed. I guess this is a very minor improving move for the rook. But it's
he probably wants to defend on e7 and then move his queen, maybe.
Yeah, this does liberate the queen who's currently babysitting the e7 pawn. Okay, and now a4. So I'm not sure either side has any concrete plan.
This looks like a very, I don't know, weird position.
Yeah,
like what is that bishop doing on e6?
Yeah, I think the way I would describe this position is congested. Like you like there's a lot of traffic, right? You feel like you're stuck in a traffic jam with all of these pieces here. Like there's not a lot of space for them to move around in, and kind of the opposite of that game we were talking about earlier where there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
Here it's like, as a weird result of there being too many pieces, it's very hard to find something to do. And somebody said, what about like queen d4? But I guess I'd be afraid of like any discovery.
Yeah, then maybe just knight takes knight, and then you lose a piece.
Yeah, I think you're just worse for sure. So bishop takes finally, and now becoming a bit of a target. And here actually Lena found the top engine move, which is very exciting because it's the only move to have an advantage, and then that's g4.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
Surprising. Quite surprising, I think, that this is such a strong move in this position. But it is the only move to get a +1 little edge.
Yeah, that is surprising.
Yeah, and I guess you are getting this very strong bishop, and you're also threatening to always like kick this knight away if you ever have to. Like if if you need control at any point of these key central squares, the knight can always be displaced, which is interesting. I'm not sure personally like why it's so much better than g3. But it is. So if g4 and like knight takes, it's because of g5, but what if this knight takes? a5. I see, it's for purely tactical reasons. So you just have the basic remove the defender tactic if you try to grab this pawn. So that's very nice, actually. This is really nice because there's a couple of openings where that I play. Like there's this line in the Queen's Gambit Accepted where you have this weird pawn and you kind of always just try to keep it tactically defended instead of like concretely defended by pieces.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is the same. So this pawn is just going to be tactically defended because right now this queen is a completely useless defender against two knights, right?
Yeah.
But having these two very extended flank pawns are actually very, very useful for defending your d-pawn. So that's really, really nice that she has understood this position so well. And he doesn't grab the poison pawn, knight to c4 and bishop g2, h6. We want to be able to liberate our dark squared bishop, but rook b1 is always a bit of a sad move to play, I guess, here. Maybe we can maybe we can try and
what
push
about
this pawn at some point.
Instead of that?
Well, I guess maybe you'll try to push this.
You want maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Would you go for like b4? Maybe at one point. I think it makes sense because if rook a2 and you develop, then your rooks are no longer connected.
Yeah, I was thinking then we play b4 and then rook e2.
Just to double. That's a nice idea. It's very creative.
I just don't like the rook on b1 because also it's gonna take. Yeah, I mean also the rook on a2 is none.
Yeah, I guess it's also just a prophylactic move for the bishop, but yeah, we definitely want to be able to develop this dark squared bishop on c1, and the rook goes right back. Okay.
Okay. Maybe she realized she heard us speaking. Yeah. She was like, wait, actually you're right.
She heard us and she was like, rook a2 would be better, Diana, you're right, because it defends a4 from the queen. No, that's actually a really good point that for very simple reasons it does just defend a4, I guess, in this position. And a6 and a5. But okay, like hear me out. Can you not just play a5 right away and stop yourself from
Yeah, you definitely can.
Yeah. So
maybe she didn't like the queen coming to a4. I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually possible.
But then you can just play rook a1.
Yeah, rook a1 and you just get a tempo.
Yeah, so I guess you don't need to rush.
And now this would be the exact same position as we have on the board, but without a6. Basically, white would have gained a free turn. So for anyone watching who's not familiar with the idea of tempo in chess, the way that I like to describe it is that in chess you have two clocks. The clock that you see with the actual time on it and the clock that exists within the moves of the game. So in reality, like some moves that you play in chess, like moves that attack the queen, moves that come with check, you usually think of these moves as gaining a tempo, which is almost like gaining a free move in the game. And so we would have achieved this here. But instead we have this position, which is exactly the same, but with a6. So it's like there was an extra move played here. So queen to c7 and rook to e2. So do you know what, actually? Theme of the day being rook lifts. The top move here is rook a4.
Oh, nice!
I know, right? theme of the day is really coming into its own. This is a really beautiful, creative idea. And it's actually quite nice because if you ever add a defender, you're threatening to take because the queen is not a good guard. She has a wooden shield. You don't want to have to recapture with her. Actually, one of my coaches referred to it as punching with your face. Because you don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And you can't recapture with the queen.
Nice visual way of thinking about it.
So instead, rook e2. And it seems pretty principled, like maybe at some point rook e1 and queen d7 and knight to d4. Okay. And queen c7. So we've got a little bit of dancing going on from both sides. Which is quite funny. I guess they're both actually trying to decide what they want. I'm not sure about the good reason actually to move your queen onto d7 here. Like the only thing
I guess
to do
you
is
wanted
really
to protect the knight with the rook
discourage.
instead of the queen.
Right, totally.
And I guess you're playing against the rook lift.
That's true, actually. That's a very creative idea, is to just completely say no to the rook lift. But
and you're also I guess putting pressure on g4.
I guess after knight to d4, you're no longer playing against the rook lift because it's no longer possible. So actually just going back is fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, queen c7, and we've got knight
but
back
still,
to
queen
b3.
c7 is a weird move to play. Wait, they want to draw?
Yeah, I'm getting the feeling that they're both kind of trying to see if the other is up for a draw. And I don't know how to describe this to non-tournament players. Like, I once made a draw in the Olympiad, and it was a draw by repetition, but it was also kind of a draw by agreement because, like, there was a rule where you couldn't draw before move 30, and so we were, like, repeated twice, and then, like, we were about to repeat again, and then we just kind of agreed to a draw. But like, it's not anything like a prearranged draw, which is actually against the rules. But like, sometimes when you're playing a game of chess against your opponent, you both realize maybe they're actually, it's kind of like, okay, this is going to be a really bad analogy. Just like when you're dating somebody and you're trying to see if they're actually interested in you. Like, it's you're just kind of like looking at them and you're kind of trying to see if you're on the same page. And when it comes to like trying to make a draw in chess via repetition, like, it happens a lot in positions where it's not forced, right? So in this position, there's other ways to continue. Like, the engine would love e5 or e6, and these are very concrete ways to continue because they transform the position, they make changes. But shuffling the pieces back and forth make no concrete changes to the position. And like, there's kind of the vibe that both of them would be down for a draw. I don't actually think Dodgy will go for a draw. And the reason I don't think he'll go for a draw is because he's just had 2 draws and he's thirsty for a win.
But also here, like, sometimes when your opponent repeats moves, you have a chance to get a better position because actually the second usually, well, not usually, but sometimes the second repetition is actually not good. So instead of knight b3, I think White had something better.
Yeah. And now I think also
we could just take the knight away, with b3.
And where's the knight going?
Oh, sorry, the pawn is hanging. Oh, but then we have a nice wait, is the knight trapped? The knight is trapped. Oh no, it's not. Well, it is, but you can defend it.
As in, like, you can play b6 and then go back.
Yeah.
But then you would win material.
A6 is hanging.
So b6, b4. Well, I guess there's knight c4, but you're winning back material. And then you get these super strong rooks on the a file. Board 2 agreed to a draw. Okay, we'll flick over to it in just a second.
Surprise.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about draws and repeating moves not always being good, There's also this tactic where you will repeat twice and then change. So
Yeah.
you'll repeat twice and your opponent will think, oh, they're up for a draw. And then, so your opponent will go to repeat for a third time, and then that's when you play something else. And actually, I've done this before. I did this once in the Olympiad when I was playing a queen endgame. Was an equal queen endgame, and I decided to repeat twice. And then instead, we were just about to make time control. So it was the final move I had to play to make time control, which is exactly why I repeated twice, because actually I really had to go to the bathroom, and I didn't have time to get up because I only had like 1 minute or something. So I just ended up repeating twice, and then I gave a check, and actually managed to win that game. So it was definitely
nice.
worth playing on. We can flick to board 2 because there is an agreement of an agreement of a draw. We can go back to where we were here. I think knight to a5. This is kind of the last thing we looked at. The knight came to d2 and c3. Yeah, we were around here after this trade, and a5. This is where we looked at this rook a4 idea for anyone who may have forgotten this game. Queen to b5, rook a4 played anyway. I guess this is just a very, very active rook. Queen takes b2 and c4. And then queen to c3. Curious. The queen is in enemy territory on her own and defending the pawn. So it's really interesting that the preferred move is just to keep pushing, because it does seem to be a free pawn.
And
if takes, I guess d6.
Oh, d6
is very nice.
Oh yeah, that's a nice pawn.
And you will,
and b7 is also
yeah. This is a really nice idea, and very, very creative way to play the position. But I guess it's very, very human to play a move like bishop to e2, because really white doesn't have any big problems in the position. They also have the bishop pair. And then queen to b2 is played, bishop to f3 is played, queen to c3 is played, and they agree to a draw. So they start to repeat, and then they have draw by agreement, which is so funny because the engine hates all of these moves. The engine is like, the engine is screaming at white, like, no, play for a win, like, push your c-pawn. But I guess what we were saying earlier about pushing too hard and then regretting it, this is something that's very much on the mind of every chess player. Like, every chess player who's played a couple of tournaments, like, it's a rite of passage to push too hard and regret it.
And like, especially since it's a double round day, you don't want to tire yourself out too much.
That's actually very true. Yeah, that's really true. Okay, so board 2 is over. Huh. I'm very curious, I'm not gonna lie, about Alexandra Prado's position.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I think that there's a lot going on. Okay, rook dg8 is played, rook g1 is played. I think this is quite like forcing. You have to defend. Bishop to f4 and f takes g4. Yeah, this is terrifying position to have as white. This is very, very scary because your rook is tied to this
and your
pawn.
king is just has no pawns in front of it.
Super interesting actually that in this position rook h6 was played instead of taking back. So this would have been possible as well. Rook takes g4 is possible. I guess maybe you're afraid of queen here. But actually there's no threat because the rooks are still connected. And I guess trying to trade things off is the way to play that. So rook to h6, and I guess you just recapture with the second rook. But I think in this position, like a move like bishop to c1, now you can't avoid the trade because of the skewer, right? Or the pin, sorry.
Yeah, and she wants to trade pieces to get rid of some pressure.
Yeah.
But h2 is also Oh yeah, or there, yeah.
Sorry, what would you have preferred?
Well, I was thinking rook takes h2, but it doesn't work because of queen e6.
Oh yes, and now this check is a real threat.
Yeah, although
Okay,
if you take
but
the
you
rook,
can't
then
take
g2
it.
is hanging.
Yeah, and then mate. This is
Oh,
forced
there, queen
mate.
f3, beautiful move.
Queen f3 because of the pin of the pawn.
Yeah, but
Wow,
you can
this
also take
is
on g2 and it looks
crazy.
crushing. So actually, queen takes e6 is
Yeah,
not even
this
that.
is crushing too.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Her king is too.
So here the move is knight takes f5. Apparently. And now rook takes g2 is the way to maintain your advantage. And rook g6. It's interesting because there's still a lot of checks for white. And you can, maybe you can't get away with taking here and stuff like this. Your king is so exposed. Your king is so vulnerable. In reality, it's very scary. But I guess that's the best that we can hope for, unfortunately.
And she's down to 5 minutes as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to board 1 for a little moment. Board 1 has been less exciting today. Okay, so we were around here and we had this little rook lift. This is where we left off this game. We had rook a5, bishop e2, and knight f4 with a little tempo on the bishop, and then bishop f1. Okay, so I think this is going to be either...
Yeah, the rook is coming to g5 now.
Yeah,
Black
and actually this is a very creative way for black to play. But I actually think they didn't bring it to g5. I'm surprised though. It's a fun idea. h5 was played, and then
rook back.
f5 was played. So you can just force a queen trade if you like. I don't know. Do you do it, Diana?
Yeah, actually with white I would want to trade queens because I prefer the endgame, but with the rooks I want to trade queens and rooks. Well, actually, do I? I don't know. This is looking very equal.
Yeah, you're almost forced to play like rook d8 here, or you lose a pawn. I guess knight to b6 is possible too. But it does feel like the bishop is better, doesn't it? Like now you always have the threats of coming in here and winning material. So you have to play king f8. I think this seems nicer for white. I like these pawns. I like our active pieces. It's quite nice, but I guess it's not very straightforward for actually making progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think chat is saying this looks pretty balanced. This is the right way to describe it. It could either be a very, very, very long game where someone tries slowly to improve, or maybe it does just become a draw after some trades. It's hard to tell at this point. So maybe we don't have board 2 anymore. Maybe we go and take a look at Jovanka.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, I think I was looking at her game. I think it's not looking good.
Okay.
I think it's close to game over.
So she's played knight d5 and she has avoided making this trade. I guess she's hoping to play for this checkmate, right? I don't know. And trades. Okay. So she is just down a piece, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess there are some tactics if they're allowed, like queen h1, king e2, rook takes e8, but he won't allow that. So instead he plays queen a4 and guards everything.
Yeah, now
know.
queen e4 is coming. If you can trade queens, then it's just easy win. I mean, she can take another pawn. Queen takes d3, but then you just move your king to g2. Or, I mean, yeah. Do you have to go king? What about king g1? Is there any check?
I have a feeling she might resign soon.
Yeah, after this, there are no more checks, so I think king g1 is maybe makes more sense.
Not easy. Oh. Feels bad.
Yeah, it's not nice.
No. Honestly, like, it's very hard to see at bishop h6 how you're just gonna end up down a full piece, right?
Yeah, yeah. Bishop takes, queen takes, knight takes.
Like, there's a lot to look at.
Yeah, it's not obvious.
Right, and I guess because she didn't go for knight takes d6, here instead she's just down pawns, right?
Yeah.
But your piece is, like, your knight is basically non-existent. It has nowhere to go, and very unhappy. What's up, guys? We are back, and actually we're going to take a look at a couple of games that we haven't looked at so far because I thought it would be fun to discuss some exciting new positions. So here we have Grandmaster Thomas Beerdsen, and we did look at one of his games earlier in the tournament. He's currently on 2.5 today, playing against WGM Viktoria Radeva, who's also on 2.5 points. And we have quite a fun little Petrov, I guess, if the Petrov can ever be fun. It's actually very hard, I find, to inject life into Petrov positions. I don't know how you feel about it, Diana.
There is a way. If you play knight c3 at the start and then you play your bishop to f4 and you can castle queenside, that's how I like to play against it. But yeah, it is hard to play. But also, I guess from her perspective, it's a good choice since she's playing it.
She's playing Grandmaster. Yeah. So
oh
she's
yeah,
about 200 points lower.
Someone
I
in the
think
chat
the
plays
Petrov is very solid. There's a lot of variations where you can essentially transpose into an exchange French. That's not very fun. And of course, I have no respect for the Stafford Gambit, so it's not the most fun position. And this idea of playing queen to d5 is very creative. I've never seen it before. And here we're already out of theory. Like, there are no games. So we have a completely new game of chess, which is always nice to look at. And we have bishop takes g6. So both sides having some kind of doubled pawns. I'm interested to see how we go with the c pawns. I guess exactly the right way to play it is to put a piece on d5. Whether or not it's going to stay the queen, probably not. Yeah. But Ricky won. And g4. Okay, fun. g4. Here I'm really surprised that we didn't just develop the bishop. Like, I guess queen to f5 is what we want to avoid. But here there's a fun move from the engine, rook to e4. Rook lifts. Rook lifts in every game, but this is not the variation we had because g4 was played, preventing any queen ideas.
Okay, another g4.
Yes, so g4 and the queen cannot come in. Bishop to f6, bishop to f4, and a rook trade. And rook e8, c5. So trying to liquidate our doubled pawn there. Obviously, there's a nice pin. This is kind of a fun way to do it because nothing can be done about this. And then I guess you can just trade the rooks if you want to here as black. And get this tempo on the knight. And then you're not afraid of this situation or anything. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks equal. Same
Yeah.
color bishops. I guess White's knight on e1 isn't great, but you can just reroute it anyway. You can just play knight d3.
Hard to say anything else about these Petrov positions. Looks equal, yeah. So this is exactly actually what Viktoria has played. So she just played rook takes e1, had a little bit of a think. 6 minutes, rook takes e1, knight takes is obviously the only move, and then queen e8 seems to be the most challenging follow-up because you get a direct tempo on this knight here.
Yeah.
So this is quite nice. This is a very nice way of dealing with c5 because c5 is obviously exactly what White should be doing to try and deal with the doubled pawn. And then if White manages to get rid of it, then I guess they'll have very, very slight advantage in the endgame.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, also White has double pawns as well, c5, c3.
Yeah, but if we're
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess she just needs to keep up on the clock now because she's down to 15 minutes.
Yeah. The first time I played against her, I was 12, and we've played against each other a couple of times. And I remember she was always with her dad. I was also with my dad, and she gave me you know, when younger kids play in tournaments, they usually give like a token from their countries, and she gave me a Bulgarian perfume, and I still have it at home.
That's so cute. That's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know anything about Viktoria. I didn't know her age or anything. So she's like around our age?
Yeah, she's the same age as me. I think maybe she might be 1 year younger than me, but
okay.
I think she's born in 2001 maybe. But actually, I'll search. So 2001. So she was always in my age group whenever we played under 12s, under 14s. And she also plays for the Olympic Bulgarian team.
Queen e8 and knight to d3. So instead of knight back to f3, knight to d3, I guess is just much more centralized. It's quite nice. You have the octopus knight that can see as many squares as possible. Is great, and controlling the central square is always the best. And then d takes c5. So this
do I still have because it doesn't smell nice?
The double pawn. I guess now you can take on c7 instead of taking the pawn on c5. This is possible too, though. Taking on c5 or taking on c7. And I guess now just b6. And things are starting to look very symmetrical.
Yeah.
And then you can play like just bishop back, and we have an almost entirely symmetrical position.
Surprise, surprise at the Petrov.
Okay, let's take a look at another game. We have this rook end game that you mentioned against between
a lot of progress. Okay,
Grandmaster 2459 and Adam Dorrance 2284. So actually, when we picked this game to look at, you said someone was up a pawn, and no one is up a pawn now. So I don't know what.
Maybe I miscalculated. But a few moves to go. Sorry, I can't remember exactly what. Oh yeah, here it looked black. Oh no, sorry, I missed the A pawn because I saw that black had an extra pawn on the pawn chain. Oh, sorry, they do. Oh, they do.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They did have an extra pawn for a bit, and
for one move.
No, for one move, yeah. But I mean, this endgame is always going to be unpleasant endgame for you to play here as black because you're playing against a grandmaster who has an hour on the clock.
Yeah.
You're basically playing opposite time odds. So time odds are when the weaker player gets more time. This is literally the opposite. So I mean, with perfect play, this should be a draw.
Yeah.
But no grandmaster is going to just agree to draw with you here, because they have 1 hour and you have 4 minutes. So that's just never happening.
Yeah. I guess rook h6 to hold on to that pawn. But I think black will manage because white's king is cut off to the end, and
Yes.
you can't activate your king at all.
Yes, it's very. Oh, and they've agreed to a draw.
Oh,
They just did exactly what I said they weren't gonna do. I was like, no, Grandmaster is just gonna agree.
I mean,
But
it's
yeah.
hard with this. Maybe a few moves ago, but it's hard when it's just you can't really do anything.
Yeah. And just for the record, I do believe there is like a 10 or 15-minute delay on these boards, so it's likely actually more moves were played that we didn't receive.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. So I believe that there's a delay on the live boards. So I'm guessing that something happened and they agreed to draw. Okay, perfect, great. Very quick game for us. We can take a look at this game with Jonah Willow, young international master from the UK. And he's very, very strong. I think he's kind of close to becoming a GM, right? Not sure how many
Luz
norms
can
he
update
has.
us. I'm sure you know Luz.
Actually played and beat Mr. Dodgy in round 1.
Ooh.
And he's playing against Roland Bezuidenhout from South Africa, I believe. Yes. Okay, this is just a test of my flags, basically. One day I'm gonna say the wrong flag, and it's gonna be embarrassing. Okay,
I think you're fine.
Jonah has 1 GM norm, and he's actually very close. He's 40 points away from the rating of 2,500. So yeah, he's very strong. I remember when he was FM, and then he became an IM, and it was like around the time when I was a beginner, I think, or something. And he's just, I guess, one of these people who spends a lot of time dedicated to chess. It's very admirable to watch, and yeah, it could not be me.
Yeah, I've been playing for 20 years, and I'm still the same rating as I was maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, not me either.
Yeah, it's the way though when you don't put chess first, and putting chess first is a big sacrifice to make for everything else, right? So
yeah,
we all have our own paths, and I actually really love being a member of the chess community and taking part in chess events, like regardless of my rating. And even though my rating has kind of been steadily, slowly increasing, I don't really feel like it's made a big difference to my experience. So,
yeah.
I don't know if you find that.
If it doesn't increase, or
like not gaining rating is not changing like how much enjoyment I'm getting out of chess. I think.
right. Yeah.
Like I think that if you're incredibly rating driven, then you also have to be very dedicated, or it's just a recipe for disaster. If you're not spending a lot of time on chess and you really can't afford to be putting this pressure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think now I think same for you, like our priorities are a bit different. It's not so much, of course we want to do well in the chess, but it's more we're visiting our friends, and also we're making content out of it. So if we didn't make any content out of it, then definitely it would affect our mood.
Yeah, exactly. So actually this is a really fun end game because we both have white and black 2 pawns that are close to promoting, right?
Yeah.
So there's actually a lot at stake. There's a lot at stake here. And there's only one move for black to hold the position, which is king to g6, and you're going to chase this rook. And if you don't play this and you play something else like g2, then well, you just are going to get stopped by rook e1, I suppose. And there's no way to save the pawn.
Yeah. Once that pawn is gone, then white can just use the rook to collect the other pawns that are on light squares, like the b5 pawn.
Right, and you can't afford to, well, you couldn't take go here anyway because you'd be taken, but if you could, you wouldn't because you're just allowing pushes. So we need to play king g6 to chase the rook, and then if d7, we are going to play king g5 apparently.
I
That's
guess
not
you
what I
want to
thought
get
we were
closer to
doing.
the pawn anyway, so you're
Right.
willing to give away the bishop for the rook. Actually, this position was a very similar position was played in the Chessable Masters, Grishchuk versus Duda.
Oh, really?
Just now, like I think yesterday it was played, or 2 days ago. 2 days ago, and it was a draw. Not this exact position, but the other pawns weren't there, and it was king and pawn versus rook eventually after some trades. But if your opponent's king is too far away from the pawn and you're able to use your king and pawn together to try and promote, then the rook will not be useful anymore. So if anything, black can try to win this.
Right, and the only move here apparently to draw is c4.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Which is impossible.
Wait, and if you play king king g4? Oh, I guess there's rook g8. Oh, b3? Oh, okay.
B3.
White wants to make a pass pawn, so you can't allow that. Okay, that makes sense. Because the rook is going to have to sacrifice for the g pawn anyway.
Yeah.
But that's difficult, yeah. c4 to stop b3 is hard to see.
Yeah. But I wouldn't put it past Roland to play c4, you know? I don't know nothing about Roland, but I have complete and utter faith in him. He found king g6.
Yeah, he found king g6. That's good.
Yeah. Why not? This is actually the kind of endgame that blows my mind. It's the kind of endgame that feels like no human can play it and win it, or play it and draw it. But there's something so technical and like sterile about endgames where you just simply have to do the right thing and there's no room for discussion. That I really don't mesh well with. You know?
Sorry. I was just going to say, I think Alexandra's game is actually not as bad as it was when we last looked at it.
Okay, hold on. Let's take a look at Alexandra's game because this was a very... Oh my gosh, it's gone back to a draw. Oh, and black has made a horrible blunder apparently, according to the engine. So okay, bishop to h2. So let me just go back to where we were. So here we were with rook h6, and h3 is played to prevent rook h2, and f takes g4. And instead of taking back, Alex plays this very tricky move, which is knight h5. The point being that if you take, then I'm going to check you, and this actually like makes a lot of sense, right? We don't want to be checked and lose our rook. The thing is when you're playing this position, you don't know that Stockfish is telling you that you're still -6 winning and crushing, and that if you play queen e4, you're probably going to checkmate. Like, this is not human. Like, this is not human by any means. And you have to play very accurately as well to retain that advantage when you're down a rook, down an exchange. And so this is not what was played. And instead, bishop h2 was played with a tempo on the rook, trying to remove the defender from g2. So of course, you can't move the rook, right? If you move the rook, you're going to get checkmated probably. So we have to give up the exchange, and knight to f6 with a tempo on the rook can be taken if you want to go down the exchange. So bishop takes rook and king takes. Now the queen is the defender of g2, so there's still no checkmate. And then black decides to give up the exchange.
I think he I don't know what he's thinking here. Maybe he just missed that. bishop? I don't know.
So black just won an exchange and is now deciding to give up the exchange, which is not what I thought was going
And
to
she's
happen.
down to 1 minute as well.
Yeah, so rook takes, bishop takes, and now
He's
rook
probably just
to
playing quickly to
g6,
put her under time pressure.
queen check.
Oh, now
and,
they're trading everything. Wow, okay, she can
queen
definitely
takes,
hold this. What?
takes,
What a
takes,
save!
takes, and
That's crazy.
I'm very impressed.
That's a huge save.
This is cool.
Oh my god, he's gonna be really upset. This is what happens when you play too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, he did play too quickly. He did spend some time though, actually, on his moves. Like his blunder. Okay, his blunder he didn't. He spent 1 minute, but before that he was spending 15 minutes, 5 minutes. He spent some time. Unfortunately, though, you can't allow rook takes g2.
Oh no! Wait, is this what was played?
Apparently, according to this position, yeah, and we've got rook takes g2 on the board, and king f1, king f1 on the board.
She was just saving it. H2 now. Oh no.
Yes, on the board, and h2.
No.
So I guess you've got to play bishop takes.
It. Yeah, she has to take it. Yeah, she has to take.
Yeah.
Wait, but what should you have played instead of that?
It was impossible to find. You have to play g4.
Well, I guess it makes sense because you don't want the rook taking. Oh, but still, and I guess king
still
h2.
Takes.
King h2, yeah, and you can't defend. It's not impossible, but she has no time. I mean, actually, this is the only way. Yeah, it does make sense.
It makes sense, but if you're playing on increment, which she is, then you're just playing moves quickly.
Yeah, the pawn on h2 on h3 is more dangerous than them. It's not so much that they take the pawn, is that you
and she's taken the pawn and he's taken it back, and it's tricky. Actually, I feel like there might not be a delay on the life boards because I'm seeing this.
Yeah, I'm seeing her as well.
Unless she's got a delay on her cam, which maybe she does. Maybe she synced them up. It's possible. Yeah. Would G3 be?
Although they did start at exactly 12, though.
Then maybe not. G3 is possible. It is possible.
Same idea.
Yeah, but I guess it's not as good because then you take this pawn. So you lose this pawn and you're not able to take just yet. Whereas with G4 takes here, then you can't get the rook to G3 and take this pawn. Oh yeah. Yeah, she's resigned.
Oh, hard luck. She had a chance, but no time. Good. She did a good job to I don't know, kind of save it there.
And like I had this in the last round in the London Chess Classic when you're worse and then you've got it back to a draw.
Yeah.
And then you lose again and it feels like 2 heartbreaks and 2 losses. And honestly, it's so devastating. It's horrible knowing that you had a second chance and that you weren't able to take it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alexandra's just signed her score sheet and she's gonna end her stream. I think it's unfortunate for her. So let's take a look quickly at this game between Jonah and Roland because actually C4 was not played, but that's fine because this is actually a different variation that we were looking at, right? So here there are a couple of moves that were still playable, all of these king moves, and king g5 was played.
Really interesting position.
Yeah, it is. It is a really interesting position, and it's what the fun thing is now is that c4 is the best move for white.
What? Because you need to bring your king in, or?
Well, I mean, Stockfish evaluates it as plus 0.02 instead of 0.00. Really, this is all a draw. Like everything here is going to be drawing. This is the most challenging line to go for. This is what white should go for because c4 here is the only drawing move for black.
Yeah.
Like this is definitely the most challenging. Whereas here, this is not as challenging. I guess you can now go for this. And this is a bit easier as well for black. Like finding that c4 move after these trades here seems very complex. And Rook e1 is played, so there's a fear. There is a fear from both sides. And I guess it's hard to come and scoop this pawn up, right? It's not simple.
Also, I think he needs just one GM norm. Yeah, one GM. Oh, or he has one GM norm?
He has one, so he still needs two.
He needs two. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no delay.
No, there's no delay because I was surprised because the organizer told me there would be delay on the live boards. And so he said, if there's going to be delay on the live boards, can you have delay on stream? And I was like, no.
But if there's a delay on the live boards, then there will be a delay on stream.
Yes, but like a delay on the cameras, like on the live cameras.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No. I didn't explain it well, but basically, if the cameras are coming to you directly, you can see the moves ahead of the delay, which kind of undermines the delay. Yeah. But it's honestly never a security risk ever. Because nobody is playing their game of chess and then going and looking at a Twitch stream to see what like two random commentators said about it. Like no one is doing this.
I think it's when it's broadcast in the big hall. Like maybe I don't know if that's part of the area that you can go.
No, it's in a different place.
Yeah, then there's no risk. But I think the risk could also be, I mean, this also doesn't really make so much sense, is that if someone is watching, then they can just go in, but it doesn't really make... What?
White has made a mistake. A slow king move.
Oh, now black is winning!
And king d2.
Oh my goodness.
And black can play king f3. And... has an advantage.
And the bishop will go to... maybe not. I was thinking bishop d4, but you need to keep an eye on that pawn. Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow,
so the king will just go to f2, I guess. You can't do anything.
No. You're too slow. Like, if... like, let's say nothing happened and you could come over here, like, oh, you're still too slow. Okay. You're too tempy, too slow to save the promotion. Okay. F3. Wow, this is going to be a huge win for Roland if he converts this. And I mean, king f3 is on the board, and now these checks don't actually do anything. Like, you can even just play king f2, and if they keep going for checks, you can come here and you can just hide behind your pawn.
Yeah.
And then if you go here, and then you can just simply promote, and this is going to be winning. Because you have stuff, right? You have another passer, and White's king has to take a very long journey to access these, and cannot escort this one. So yeah.
Well, I guess rook e1 was just too
slow.
Too defensive. Yeah.
I guess though, if we go back to the position that we had with king g5, I guess if you're looking at this as white, it does make a lot of sense that you don't want to go for this, because even though they have to sack their bishop and you come back, you're thinking in your head, if I sack my rook for this, they have another passer, right?
Yeah, but
that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think it's this is probably always going to be a draw because you have to rely on worst case checks, but I think you have enough time for your king to come in before you have to sacrifice your rook.
Right. Whereas here, it's no good. You're gonna be the one sacrificing, and the bishop is still here, and the bishop. The difference here also, I guess, is that the bishop can always just take, and it's not going to be a sacrifice even.
Yeah, here in the previous one, the bishop is already off the board, but now the bishop is still on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, and now if bishop
we just have bad luck.
Any game we click on is something
Jovanka,
horrible happens.
Alexandra, and now Jonah. Who do we want to lose so that
no. Oh. Yeah, so if this bishop check and like king d3, can you just play king f2? I think this is the most direct way, right?
Yeah.
And any kind of like movement, you're just going to promote. Then I guess you have to be a little bit careful here about white creating another pass pawn. Maybe like c4, but it doesn't really work actually.
Oh yeah,
like
no, black will have another one.
Nothing. Like, yeah. But yeah, black would have another one is the problem. You really have to do nothing to allow white to get another passer here. So let's take a look maybe at this Bobby Cheng game that we left a while ago.
Yeah.
So when we left it, c6 had just been played. White finally castles, and b5 taking some space on the queen side. b3 preventing this knight hopping into this outpost really. And then h3, rook e8, knight to f3. So black didn't even have to play h6 because really this knight doesn't belong on g5 and should come somewhere else, just control central squares as well. Knight e4, rook c1, bishop d6 trades, and shuffling the pieces. Okay, f6 is a bit crazy, right? And there was a slight miss here.
He was just finding that knight too annoying, I guess.
Slight miss here because apparently we can take, and if takes, of course, we will.
Oh, nice.
Not do that because the queen is defending. Yeah. My bad. The queen is defending. But okay, we have a nice knight, and it's well placed to defend, and there are not going to be any checkmate threats. Yeah, it's hard to see why this is so much better. I guess what you really want to do is get rid of the strong knight. Sorry. Without having like too much of a clump here. And now the trade happens, but I guess rook takes is also possible. Another potential rook left, but maybe it's not so good. Bishop takes, and you just can maybe start to make some threats.
Yeah, although black is down on time by a lot.
Bishop takes is played, and a4. Yes, black only has 2 minutes.
How about, does Borna have any IM norms? How many does he need, Laz? We'll ask you for the 4NCL team update.
Got the insider knowledge. And we can take a look at board 1 because, of course, board 1 is still going. So, Borna has 2 IM norms and rating. Just need a Swiss norm. Okay.
Okay.
But they could get that this tournament, I guess. So board 1, let's switch to board 1 cams. We can see them both having a big think. We have f5 and a queen trade. Just as we discussed, we went for the queen trade, and the bishop is very nice on this long diagonal.
Nice long range piece.
Now queen f6, just stopping any nonsense. King f1, h4, king e2. Okay, so bit of shuffling, bit of maneuvering. White's trying to make some progress. En passant is played. Okay, so this is where we're up to now. So we've been gone for about 15 moves. Both sides playing relatively quickly, so neither of them are in time trouble, which is nice to see. And still very much an equal-ish like ending. Equal material, just really the minor piece difference and the fact that black has the doubled f-pawns.
Yeah, I guess black has the worst pawn structure, but maybe the king is more active.
Yeah, the king is more active. That
knight needs to get into the game, though.
I think the knight. Okay, so we've had king f3 played. King f3 is a very natural move that I was thinking of playing, but then I noticed the engine didn't like it. And the engine was preferring just some very basic developing of the bishop, maybe even to like reroute the bishop. I'm not sure. And
I guess I don't know.
Yeah, very bizarrely, even the engine likes a4 here as the top move. If takes, then takes here, and we will probably take again. This is winning.
Oh, the knight is trapped.
Yes, exactly, and you can't come here because of the pawn. So very fancy. This would be very nice board geometry, but I don't think that's going to happen because a4 is a bit of an unhinged move to play otherwise, and it's not played. King f3 is played. Activate your king in the endgame, and f5.
Oh, nice move. F5
is a very nice move because you're really shutting this king in a box. Look at this king now.
Yeah.
I guess this is why the engine didn't like this move so much. It looks like you're activating your king, but actually you just put your king in a little coffin. So.
Yeah, and also your bishop is even it's even harder to activate now as well.
Yeah, the bishop is now out, so this will prevent the knight from being trapped by any possible sneaky maneuvers, because now g6 will always be an option. So we'll h7 because we've blocked off the bishop's vision. This is a really, really nice move. Very, very high level move. Maybe we can look at this Jonah Willow game. I'm very excited to see if it's converted. And we have king f2, rook e2 check, king g3. Okay, coming up instead of down. Rook e1, king h2. And now c4 is a bit of counterplay. So I'm just very curious as to why we can't play king g1. Well, we can play king. I think I just would have played king g1 here and then just gone here, right? I guess c4. I mean, it's basically the same position. Essentially, just with like one less move. Okay. Okay, so c4 is played and a takes b3 is played. And this is a mistake as well. So actually, this is very nice to see two extremely good chess players slightly misplay something, because it makes me feel very, very much better about my own chess. It just really goes to show the audience how hard endgames are to play, because we're very used to seeing just extremely like high-level Magnus endgames and seeing them played with computer accuracy. And the reality is that even these players who are very close to Grandmaster strength are not playing these endgames with computer accuracy, because they're very difficult to understand.
So what should he have played instead of that? Instead of taking...
it's very hard. It's very
I guess
hard that
b4
the
does make
best
sense
moves
to try to
the
make a
best
pass
moves
pawn on
are
that side.
bishop 2d8, b4, g5 are slightly better. Well, a lot better, I guess, if this takes it to a drawing position.
Yeah, it's interesting. b4 would have, because even though this is a passed pawn, if you play b4, then you'll get the passed a pawn, and it's promoting on the dark square bishop, on the dark square, which you already have a bishop. So maybe that's why
Wow.
b4 is stronger.
So this c4 move's extremely nice counterplay from Jonah, and it's very easy to underestimate. When you're one move away from queening as well, you're not worried.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna queen.
Yeah, but I guess your bishop can protect both pawns. So yeah, that's yeah, actually, yeah, that's tough for black.
Yeah. And you can't promote here because it's draw as
bishop
well
d8
for the
direct
same
after c4.
reasons.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, so maybe this will just end up being a draw, or maybe white will even win. Who knows? Who knows?
That's true if the a pawn and b pawn work together.
Yeah.
But I guess the bishop on d8 is protecting everything now.
Yeah, this is a roller coaster though of a game. I wasn't expecting this. I like that they're keeping us on our toes. And flicking back to board 1, we have a couple developments. We have rook to d3, which is slight inaccuracy here, and knight to h7. And instead of rook to d3, better would have been apparently still this a4 idea to bait this capture, because of reasons I don't understand. I guess
the rook is more active.
I guess there's a risk of the king getting a bit uncomfortable as well, maybe. I'm not sure. Or maybe just threats of promotion. I don't know.
Yeah, the rook is more active, and maybe if
it is definitely. Yeah.
And you can go to the other side as well. Maybe if you can start play rook f7, the knight is trapped. Yeah. I mean, you're threatening, and then you can go for the h pawn, and then you can have a passed h pawn.
Yes, but I guess after f7 we can still come here, right?
Oh yeah.
But I guess then f5 is hanging.
Oh yeah.
With check, and you're gonna start gobbling. It's gonna become Pac-Man. Okay, so this was not what happened. Instead we have d6 and a knight g5 check. And now we can come back somewhere with the king. It's not easy, I guess.
Oh, now black has a really
black
nice...
has an edge now. 2 mistakes from white. The computer is calling them mistakes. Seems quite harsh. Inaccuracy is more reasonable term.
But this is tough because also the d pawn is starting to push down the board too. So
yes, this is true. And very natural moves like f3 check are actually not favorable. Even though it looks like this king is very sad, apparently it's not so good, which is really interesting. I guess now c5 and you've consolidated. You've got your passed pawn, and now your bishop can come to play. Whereas if you don't go for this and you're just playing with the pieces instead, then you're gonna discourage moves like c5, which is quite nice. And so we have king to g2, and we have this move knight to e6, which the engine did like a moment ago and is now being critical of. So the engine is drunk. This happened actually at the end of yesterday's games when we had some very reasonable moves, and the engine just really started to dislike them. Really, the longer you let an engine think, the more it starts to disagree with itself. So let's take a look at Bobby Cheng, because we've still got quite a lot of pieces on the board, which is nice. So we had this trade, getting rid of the knight in the center, and bishop takes e4 was played, followed up by this a4 move. And yes, this is exactly what we said, is you can simply start to threaten some checkmates. And knight f4 defending. Takes. We have a very nice active rook on a4. I really like it. And pushing. So actually, I think this is not great, because now your knight is tied to this pawn.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. And now if bishop a6, you're just threatening to win material.
Yeah.
And bishop a6 is played, rook c7, and you cannot prevent losing the pawn, which is
and c6
quite
is
nice.
also vulnerable.
Yeah, c6 is hanging. So okay, this is counterplay. Sometimes, well, I'm sure everyone in chess has heard that the best defense is like active offense, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this is a way to deal with this. Yeah. And we take anyway. And now I guess black is thinking about this, but there must be some tactic here with like rook c8 and takes. Yeah. This is kind of nice.
And he's only up a pawn, but it looks like his pieces are just... That's kind of... Yeah.
This is fun, actually. Apparently better than my rook c8. You can just play queen takes b3.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah,
and after rook takes, then you've got...
You have mate
your knight
a3.
is controlling the escaping squares of the king. That's really nice.
Yes, it is. This is very nice. Wow, this is very beautiful. Okay. So I guess black, this is what black is looking at, because you actually can't take the pawn. It looks like you could, but tactically you can't. So this is very nice. Bobby is praying for rook takes b3 here, so that he can rest before round 2. And it's played. So blunder. Chess.com mentioned not calling it a blunder, but I'm gonna highlight it as blunder if I remember how.
Queen takes. Will we see queen takes on the board? Queen sacrifice?
Bobby has 10 minutes, so
he'll really definitely find it. It's just made
it'd be lovely to see this on the board. This would be really exciting. There we go. This is exciting.
He's down to 1 minute, so it makes sense that he just...
Yes, it does, but still, queen takes b3 is played, and it's gonna be resignation.
Double exclam.
Yay! Our first brilliant move of the day.
Oh.
And yeah, indirect resignation. This is sad way to end if you're a Borna, but very beautiful way to end if you're Bobby Cheng. So really nice, really nice queen sacrifice for checkmate. Okay, let's go over to Jonah Willow's crazy end game. And we've got c4, king takes, and b2. Okay. So this is fun, right? This is really fun. C4 is really creative way to play this, because as we all know that if you have two connected pass pawns, the king can never take one because the other will run. And that's exactly what's happening here. So we're creating counterplay using this idea. And g1 queen is played. And takes. And now it must be king takes, of course.
This is a really interesting endgame.
This is a crazy endgame, and now you have to push your last
either
pawn.
Color can win. What? That's crazy.
This is crazy.
I would be worried if I were either. Now Oh, this is actually, oh my god.
Now G5.
Okay, so you
this
have
is
to
fun.
get your king C3.
Mm-hmm.
What's your prediction?
Oh no, I don't have one. I don't know. It could be a draw with perfect play, honestly. Like if
I'm gonna go for black. Because
you're gonna go
if
for
black
black
can stop those pawns, then the G pawn is just queening.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, Jonah Willow is kind of good, you know?
Yeah, I mean, of course he is, but in terms of the position, it seems like it's easier to play for black.
Yeah, this is true. I do get the feeling that one slightly wrong move from white and it's game over. So let's look at like A4, G3, and then
King. This is not easy.
It's not easy. And now apparently B6 is the only move.
Okay.
So B6, bishop B6.
Because you need a tempo to attack the bishop, I guess.
Yeah, you need
Well,
yeah. Okay, so Lawrence noticed that you have to check to sack the B pawn. And Lawrence is an IM, so I guess Jonah will probably see that too. This is my chess logic. Is if one IM sees it, then another IM will see it. This is actually a really high level idea to sacrifice this pawn just to Loz also cheated and saw the engine. Just to see, you know, that you have to get the bishop one move closer. And now really Jonah has to find B6. So even though the engine is giving 0-0 in a position like this, an engine can give 0-0 and it can be, I would say, like 1,000,000 times more difficult for one side to keep it 0-0 than the other side. For black, this is easy peasy. You just push your pawn, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredibly
exactly. That's
straightforward.
why I think, yeah.
Yeah. Incredibly straightforward as you just have to push your pawn. And for white, you have only one move. Yes. And he does have 16 minutes to find.
So if he plays A4, then it's just not in time, I guess, yeah. But still, B6, bishop takes.
Yeah, because basically what we were talking about earlier about having two clocks, time on the board and time on the real clock, is you gain a tempo for free, right? By doing this. Because B6 is an incredibly forcing move, right? Bishop has to take.
Yeah.
Has to take. Most forcing move on the board. For anyone watching who doesn't understand, like if G2, I mean, okay, it's, what's the winning move? Sorry, there's no winning move. B6, but like if you don't take, then like you push, and this is now all of a sudden much more difficult to deal with. And sorry, I thought he'd played a move and my heart stopped. And
you're really invested.
Yeah, I'm really invested because I want to see if he finds like
I think he will.
This move is the kind of move in the game that like makes you very proud of your chess level, right? If you find this idea, it's very nice. It's very, very nice.
I want to do prediction, but the second I do it, it's gonna.
He'll play the move. So bishop takes, and then this is incredibly forcing as well. That's not the move anymore. Okay, A4. Okay. Definitely when I checked this with the engine before, it was talking about this tempo, but it's been thinking, I guess. So you have to play A4 first. Okay, I'm not sure I understand that you have to play A4 first before king C4, but okay.
Wait, what's the reason? Wait, if we play king there, then bishop D8. Oh, because we want to push our pawn. We want to push our pawn with tempo to A5 to kick the bishop.
A4 is on the board.
Oh no! This is how I felt in your game when you took a draw. You're completely winning.
And now, like, the thing is like if you play B6 now, which is played, it's different because you don't have to take. Like, if takes, it's going to be a draw.
A5, yeah.
But if just like not here because this is the queening square. Sorry. if king anywhere other than the the same
Oh
diagonal as the queening square,
no!
then
Anyway,
then
b6 is
yeah,
a very hard move to
e7.
find.
Yeah.
Oh! Yeah, and there's queen b1. Damn!
Devastation.
Oh!
He may have thought it was lost anyway. Yeah, actually, this is a really good point raised by Lawrence, is that when you're playing this particular position as white, you actually don't know that you have any chance at all.
Yeah.
So it can be very easy to get the wrong evaluation of a position.
Damn.
Especially crazy endgames like this. And it's crazy as well that the thing is he's played these exact same two moves, but just reversed, and that changes everything. Which is, these are the kinds of things that happen in chess where you think this is cruel and inhumane, and actually this game is evil because this is the exact same, but it's not. And now promotion is going to come. But this is going to be a big win for Roland if we don't have any more. Oh, and he resigned.
Oh, yeah. I hope he doesn't look over this game before his next game, because he's going to be very disappointed, especially since he was winning earlier.
Yeah, this is a very, very bad thing to do, is to check your games with engines. Actually, even whilst the tournament is going on, I think it's bad for your mental health to analyze your games with engines, because you can feel like relatively good about a game, even if you lost. Yeah. And then as soon as you check it with an engine, if the engine tells you something like, you had mate in 3, or like you had these chances to win, then all of a sudden your like sense of pride, or a sense of like your mental health with regards to the game, you really can't let it be disrupted mid-tournament like that. I think honestly it's best to wait until the end of tournament to analyze your games with an engine.
It's hard because you want to know what you could have done, because something might come up that you need in the rest of the game. Sorry, in the rest of the tournament.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think most players probably do check them with engines. But the most frustrating thing is, like, I would say more than 75% of the time, if I've played with a kid and he's wanted to analyze after, then instead of analyzing, what he does is he goes and gets his phone and he immediately inputs the game into Stockfish.
Yeah.
And then instead of analyzing with you, the kid is like, yeah, well, Stockfish says that I should be -1 here, that like I should be better. And I'm just that like, okay, well, Stockfish wasn't playing the game. You and I were playing the game. This is like a very common experience that I've had with playing against kids. None of them want to analyze. Like, I don't really care if my opponent doesn't want to analyze after the game, but if they do want to analyze, I'm not interested in analyzing with an engine. Like, I can do that on my own.
And the whole point of analyzing afterwards is to think through it and talk about the position.
Yeah, exactly, and to kind of get a sense of what your opponent was thinking at the time, and to see if you had calculated the same things, and also to see like what your opponent would have done if you had followed maybe like your other possible plan, this kind of thing. So we've actually got quite a lot of things happening on board 1.
Okay.
So we had D7 played, which it's actually like, I don't understand, after like rook A8, rook D8, how are you not just losing the pawn? Okay, so rook A8, rook D1. Okay, we're giving some checks first. Rook D8. Okay. I would be afraid of this. But apparently it's was not
it's still really good.
Yeah, but I would be a bit concerned about this.
And maybe they didn't. Wait, what did they not like? Rook H1? Knight takes h3.
Well, rook h1. Knight h3. Knight g5. I think you just take this, and I think white really doesn't want to give up the d pawn.
Yeah.
White needs the d pawn. Anyway, we have this position, and like, yeah, so my question is, after move like knight to f8, how do you keep the pawn? And king f2, knight d4. Okay, so this is not what we should go for because of checks, basically, and because you can then come in and do this, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And so knight d6 actually serves a really nice purpose of blocking any suspicious rook lifts from happening. And
Wait. Oh yeah, I guess you can't do anything about it.
Yeah, you can't, because then it just takes now. And the difference is if the knight is here, you get to take a piece. So we lose our d pawn. Yeah, so I think that pushing d7 was a mistake. It's something that I've done is when I've had a passed pawn.
Yeah, you just push it.
Yeah, I've pushed
I
it.
do that. I think everyone does that.
Yeah, and then I end up losing it.
Yeah, it's difficult because also on d6 it doesn't look like it was any less vulnerable. And
yeah,
also on
it's
d7
tough because
it's on a light square as well, but
c5 wasn't possible.
Yeah, you can't protect it.
Yeah, and now it's very, very hard for white because they have very little activity. Like the king is not a good piece, and their rook is really the only one that can come in and give checks. The bishop is not doing much. This knight is very well placed to stop the king even from coming out of this box that he's in. Oh.
Yeah, f3 is now hanging as well.
Yeah.
Black has too many pawns.
Yeah, taking here with check is likely. It seems.
The position just collapsed after f5, I guess.
Yeah, it did. f5 was very dominant. And we have obviously takes with check. Maybe let's just have a quick look through the standings. So board 1 looks like it will be ending quite quickly in black's favor. Board 2 was a draw. Board 3, Bobby Cheng won. Board 4, we've still got going with Keith. So maybe let's pop over because it's been a very long time since we looked at this. And actually we managed to reach an ending, a rook and pawn
Keith's
ending.
favorite.
Sebastian up a pawn. Keith's favorite, but I'm sure it's not Keith's favorite if he's down a pawn.
Not this, but he loves his endgames. I think Lars said earlier he has an amazing record with a specific endgame.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't want to be playing this down a pawn, especially because these pawns are so beautifully like connected. We've got a pass rule ready. I guess your hope is that you can try to create a pass pawn on the queen side, but it's just a distant dream right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's also hard for black as well to convert because how are you?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. It's not like it's not a given. And they're both playing with only 1 minute on the clock, which is makes this much more interesting than a regular rook and pawn ending where both sides are playing like 30 minutes plus, because it's kind of more like a blitz game now. They're basically playing blitz, right?
That's true.
We're no longer playing classical chess.
Also, Laz just said that he usually wins rook and bishop versus rook all the time.
That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I think that board 1 has ended. Yeah, board 1 has ended in resignation after rook takes f3 check, king g2, rook b3, rook takes f4, and rook b2 check. So yeah,
Hard
players
luck
not
to.
looking thrilled. It's very sad to see the player after their loss. Like they always look very sad. I always feel bad that we're broadcasting their fat sad face. But then I remember that I do that to myself as well. So it's a universal
And you're
experience.
streaming even. You choose to do that.
Yeah, I choose to do it. So yeah, board 1 over. So all of our top 3 boards are over now. We've got this last rook and pawn ending. Maybe I'll also get up Mr. Dodgy's game, see how that is going. So it's nice to have more than one game that you can look at. And Mr. Dodgy definitely didn't take that draw, and he's now playing a quite complex ending up a pawn and up 5 minutes on the clock. So this is a position that he will be very happy with, because there's no one more critical of time trouble than Mr. Dodgy.
Really?
Like, yeah, he gets very angry with me and with all players. Like, even when top level players are getting into time trouble, like if Grishik is getting into time trouble, Mr. Dodgy's like, ridiculous. Instant. Like, how can you get into time trouble?
So he never gets into time trouble.
Incredibly rarely. Like very rarely. Yeah. He's not often in time trouble. But I am, and I think it's something that a lot of players have problems with. I saw that Susan Polgar, it was a couple of months ago now, maybe, Susan Polgar made this long tweet, like multiple part tweet about players being in time trouble and how it shows like weakness and like all of this stuff. And Mr. Dodgy was like, yes, Susan Polgar, like, yes, this is it. This is what the world needs to hear about time trouble and not using the clock properly. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to be very aware of this time advantage and going to be using it to cause problems. He's playing quickly. Now on board 1, we've had a bit of an inaccuracy. This rook a5 idea actually played two times in very short succession to avoid a trade. Apparently rook a4 is the best, but black seems to have obviously the edge because of the the additional pawn. So it's quite hard to find moves anyway. And of course, when you're down material, you don't want to trade.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I think yeah, that's true. Sometimes some working games are easier to play when you trade a pair of rooks, but in this case,
yeah.
The king is also activated, and also your rook on d3 is the defensive rook. So yeah,
exactly.
So you don't want to trade that.
Exactly. This rook is actually quite nice for keeping the king cut off, and that's quite important for keeping this endgame from going sour. So here I would be concerned about like rook c3 ideas. What do you think?
Yeah, that looks. I guess after rook c3 you can play rook a3. But yeah, then they all take the a rook and then play d3. So actually, that doesn't work.
Oh yeah, that's not something I want. Okay, and we're playing actively. We're giving checks instead. I just want to see like what would happen if we had played like h4, which is a top engine move, and something like rook c3. And engine doesn't seem to think that it's a big problem.
He's entered.
And I guess rook c5 is possible, and your rook is not as well placed.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Now, yeah, because you do always want your rook behind your passer, so this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And actually,
also, Keith, how are you doing? Sorry, yes.
Keith is the one pressing on the clock here.
Oh,
like Keith.
And normal a super asked, is Arkell good at endgame? I think that's his main strength. I think endgames are his favorite part of the game.
Yeah. And just to show that this same rook idea is not working here, because here you actually just outright win the pawn. So you can't try
black
to
is
do
really
that.
getting low. Can we
Yeah.
have a camera of them, or is that
No, unfortunately, we don't
we
have
we
them on
do we
camera.
do we can see them from there is one camera that we can see them
From
from.
board 2, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, we can see them very distantly from the board 2 camera. Maybe I can zoom in for everybody. Maybe I can zoom in. There we go. We do
Yeah, it
have
looks
a
good.
distant view of Keith and Sebastian. Keith looks serious. He is so good. Like he is not fazed by this extra pawn. Like you can't tell, right?
He's seen this thousands, hundreds of thousands of times.
You know, he's like one of the only British players that I've never had any contact with. Like, or
Really?
one of the prominent ones. Like I've never met him, I've never spoken to him, like
Oh,
we've just never crossed paths. But of course I've heard lots of things about him. He's very well known in English
yeah.
chess.
He always used to play Bunratty Chess Festival, which now no longer happens, but it was a very big tournament in Ireland.
Oh, okay.
So I would see him every year there.
Okay, we have f4, which the engine is not loving. King e6 now. Yeah, I guess we don't want the king to come here to f5. This is another case of the endgame where White's king is just less active. Like in that last endgame, Black's king was the dominant king. We have king f3, and I think
guess
king
if we
f5
played
will
king
be played.
king g4, then there would be f5.
Yes,
Or
yeah, I
okay.
think so. Yeah. So I think and then like you can even play g4 now, and
Okay.
it's not fun. I think king f5 makes perfect sense. You're threatening to win a pawn outright, so you can't do it. And now you would block here.
Okay, and white doesn't want to trade rooks.
No, I don't think so. But I guess this is like slightly more challenging now because you have this passer. Like a little bit more, right?
Yeah. I guess the king is in time. Yeah.
Yeah, the king is in time to allow the rook to come over here. Okay, rook d5 apparently being the best move. Normal in chat is asking, is Keith better than Magnus at endgames? I think no one is better than Magnus at endgames, probably. Probably Magnus is the best player in the world at endgames as well as at most chess things.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not the best blindfold player. Like I heard that the best blindfold player is like not even a GM or something.
Really?
Or no. Okay, what I heard is that like the person who holds some simultaneous record for blindfold is just someone with a good memory. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. I could be
I
lying.
can't play
Like
blindfold
not
anyways.
purposefully lying, but I could be. Like I could be wrong. And Kashi was telling me about this grandmaster who plays like a simultaneous blindfold, 20 boards, and cycles on a bike at the same time.
What?
Yeah, I know.
What?
I know. Yeah.
Even playing one game is hard for me to do.
It is hard, but I guess it's practice, right? You have to train very, very hard for this. Okay, so f5 check. And apparently f5 check is a relative mistake in this position. And king f3 and no, even g4, like we're drawish. I guess it's because by pushing these pawns, you actually are stopping your own king from coming in, right?
Yeah.
Like now it's harder to make a breakthrough. And because of this pawn on f4, even though the engine was critical, you're actually like, it's hard for pieces to come in. This is a very practical choice. I'm impressed by Keith, I'm not gonna lie.
He'll be happy to hear that.
No, like he won't care at all.
No, I'm sure he will. I think once you're in the chess world, like he's been in the chess world for a really long time, and I think it's always nice to hear compliments because sometimes you can become
a4. He's just playing the top engine moves with like 2 minutes on the clock, and he's actually gaining time. Like he had like a minute before, and now he's up to 2. He's just stacking time while Sebastian is scrambling.
Even though he's the one with the pawn down.
Right, he's the one with the extra pawn, and he's struggling. And Keith is just he's cool. he's chill. It's fun. So yeah, I guess this and Mr. Dodgy are like our last games that we're following, and Mr. Dodgy has managed to retain most of his time advantage, but now White is actually a bit better. So Mr. Dodgy is up 2 pawns, but White has a very annoying passer, really, really uncomfortable to deal with. Rook c8 is, of course, the first move that comes to mind, but what do
He's going to be annoyed for not taking that draw.
No, I mean, what happened? Let's see how he got into this position, because this is where we left off pretty much around here. Bishop f6 was actually the last move we saw. Bishop g3, and we've got a little bit of shuffling. We're making the gun. Always a good idea to make the gun. And then queen b1. Okay, so this was the era, was bringing the queen in. Queen to g5 is playable here. And yeah, actually, you can't really attack the queen because of this pin. And it's not that natural of a move, I feel, to play, because the queen does feel very low on squares, right?
Yeah, that's true.
You kind of get the impression that if the queen can be attacked here, she's going to be trapped. Yeah. H5 is the next move, right? So, but maybe he just didn't like this, like rook g4, and
and queen b1 is definitely tempting to go for those pawns.
Yeah, it is. It's really tempting, and it's something I would be concerned about as White. But White just played this extremely well. Played c5, and okay, for some reason, queen b3. I guess just we're going after this pawn, but it seems like you're just letting White make some progress. I don't know.
Yeah, and now the queen is kind of away from the important squares.
Yeah. So queen b3, queen e4, so holding everything together. And takes. And now, okay, d6 missed here. So d6 here is very strong.
That's a nice move.
Yeah, and if takes, then we have tactics on f6.
Oh, I guess you have queen e7 check and you win the... Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. So
and also, be a really you'll take back win.
But this was missed, and instead we have 2 kind of not great moves, but they're both playing with very low time, so they're both kind of aware of the tactics, but Mr. Dodgy burning 3 minutes here of his 4.5 minutes.
Oh, you can give out to him.
No, I mean, actually, it's hard. Stockfish loves h5 in this position, but then just rook f4, and you end up playing rook c8 just the same. And it's kind of like that Jonah Willow game where you're wondering, like, what's the difference between this and then h5 the next turn, right? And rook c8 is played. It is like the most natural move, I think, to play. And now rook c6 is possible, I guess, making way for the queen. But instead, queen b7 is played, and this
Oh,
is
nice move.
actually
Oh, it's a
it's
bad
actually
move.
not
I think
the best
it looks
move.
good.
It's actually the same idea, right, as rook c6, because rook c6, we're still attacking the rook because we're maybe going to bring the queen in here. But yeah, you can just bring the rook back.
Yeah, I guess.
And
now your queen is also kind of misplaced.
Yeah, now the queen is a little bit awkward.
But maybe you can just bring your rook back to c4. And then you can,
Yeah, rook c4. Rook c4. It's definitely a more fun position for white. Okay, and the pawn has been lost now. Rook takes a6. And queen f5. But actually she's lost her advantage. Which is interesting because she grabbed that passer and she's got this very active queen and rook, but yeah. Maybe let's see Keith. Let's check on Keith. Keith, absolute engine here, just like playing so quickly. Okay, rook check and making very methodical moves. Unfortunately, it's never nice to have this passive king in these endgames, right? And okay, this is not a repetition of moves because the king has moved. And I guess maybe we'll see something like the rook c8 or rook c7. But there's not a whole lot that rook can do because actually black's rooks are so well placed. Like if you look at black's pawns, they're perfectly guarded by black's rooks, like perfectly guarded, you know?
Yeah, and it's also the d5 rook is also covering b5, so you can't even create a pass pawn.
Yeah, and white is just much more passive, unfortunately. And you can play g takes f4, but you usually don't want to double your pawns like this because they become weaker. And yeah, it's not played. So g4 is played, which makes sense. And then h takes, and I would definitely play king takes. And now you're threatening.
Yeah, now you have the pass h pawn as well.
Yeah, this is true. This could be the make or break.
Okay, yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. Now this looks a little bit harder for white. But I guess you can just bring your rook back around. I don't know.
Yeah, this c rook is actually not tied to these pawns because the pawns can't be attacked. So I think that we're happy to move this rook round. And like a5 is never going to be possible because we can create the passer, right? And what about Mr. Dodgy's game? Rook e4 and queen c6. Okay. Both of these games look like they could like snap at any minute.
Especially with the time pressure.
Yeah, we're now watching two blitz games play out.
There's an interesting game on what?
There's interesting
I think it's same color bishops. David J. Spence versus the international master from Wales, Jose.
Yeah, I got it.
And even though white is a pawn up, it looks like black is winning because black is going to be able to get the a3 pawn. White's king is too far away.
Yeah, so you can simply just go over here and scoop up this pawn and then push. This is really nice. So just king d2. And like, what are you? I mean, what are you gonna do, really?
Yeah, you have to try to go for the d4 pawn, I guess.
Yeah, so but it's gonna be way. Sorry.
Can you go from behind? Or
yeah. but you're gonna be
Yeah, and you're just not
slow.
that's kind of crazy because it's hard to believe that it's just equal pawns, but your bishop just cannot sacrifice for the a pawn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess we have bishop to
Yeah.
e5, but then
Yeah, black is going to be able to push a3, bishop a4, and bishop b3, and then you can cover the
yeah,
diagonal with the bishop.
yeah. And you can go for this as well,
Yeah.
right? I guess here.
It's so annoying because if you could just pass, it would be a draw, but you have to move
Yeah.
your king, allowing for black king to get in.
Mm-hmm. Right. This is very, very upsetting for the bishop. Okay, so this is being played out. Like we're seeing exactly what you said would happen. And you're just gonna go around and grab the a pawn. That's how you win this game. Just checking in on Keith, and it looks. Oh no, this is not Keith. This is Mr. Dodgy. Checking in on Keith and Sebastian. Okay, it seems like after these pawn trades, Black now has 3 passports. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. What about Mr. Dodgy? Seems that White made a bit of a miss here. And I mean, they're both playing with very low time, so hard to
Yeah, and this is a hard position to
criticize the
play.
quality of the moves. Yeah. It's a very hard position
And
to
it's a
play.
very long game as well.
Yeah, they've been going for 4 hours, so this is around the time where you would get time control. Well, I guess they would have already received time control because they've gotten to almost move 60, but they would have had a chance to stand up, walk around, have a snack, have a break. But in these 90-30 games, you don't have the luxury of doing that.
Yeah, and also when is the next round? Because they won't have enough time for a break, will they?
This is
Probably
a good
like
question.
5 or something.
Yeah, this is a good question. Let me take a look at the schedule. So we have another game in the Masters section at 5 p.m. So in 2 hours.
Okay, 2 hours. Okay, that's actually a decent amount of time.
Yeah, but they're going to be exhausted. Like,
yeah, they're going to be really tired. 9 p.m. finishing time. That's, late.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then another game tomorrow.
Yeah, another game tomorrow, and the game tomorrow is earlier. It's at 10 a.m. local time, so it's the earliest round they will have had. They've had a lot of 11 a.m. rounds, but 10 a.m. round.
Oh no, 10 a.m. after a double round day.
Yeah, it's kind of cruel, right?
Yeah, that's not what you want.
No, it's mean. But yeah, so I will be joining for commentary tomorrow at 10 a.m. UK time, and I don't think there will be commentary for this 5 p.m. round. So you'll have to, guys, watch the games on chess.com or anywhere you prefer to watch your games. You can check them out. Just the live boards. All of the live boards are available, even for lower boards. So if there's someone you're rooting for, you can check them out. And it's almost time for our commentary to come to a close. So let's just kind of see this.
Oh, wait, what's the problem? Oh,
yeah.
he blundered. Oh,
he blundered
no.
this tactic. He's going to be very upset. He's now just down a piece.
Yeah, it's hard to keep your concentration after so long.
This is over. This is over. Yeah. Okay. This is over. Let's take take a look very quickly at board 4.
This is going to go for a while. Keith is going to hold this as a draw. I predict that it's going to be a draw.
You think?
But obviously Black needs to try to push for a win. But I do believe in Keith's power of endgame. Oh, but the rooks are off now. But the rooks are going to come off.
Yes, yeah.
This is an interesting rook endgame, though.
Yeah, it's gonna go not like this. It's gonna go like this. My bad.
Oh, right, yeah. That's difficult. Okay, now you'll take a pawn back.
No, sorry, the wrong pawn. Sorry. And then you go like this, and then you have to try and hold this endgame.
Okay, yeah. So you'll create a pass pawn with b5, and then you'll take the other one.
Yeah, and we're seeing this line play out.
Okay. So this is actually perfect timing. Well done. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm getting here, and then you go for b5.
Yeah. And you'll end up holding the h pawn.
Yeah. b5, I guess if you go over here, then you have to go here, and then king e4.
Yeah.
And this is simply going to be a draw. But if you don't play b5, then it's going to be trickier, right? Because like if you kind of allow this situation, maybe it's going to be harder. But then b5 still
maybe White will end up winning.
Yeah. Nah, I think that.
Yeah, this is what's happening. Okay, it's gonna be a draw.
This is playing out, so it's gonna be a draw.
Hold.
Very nice. Keith really showing why he is such a legend with this endgame. So I think with that, we are going to be ending our commentary for the day. Thank you so much, Diana, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Correct. You'll be coming back on Saturday.
I
will.
Yeah. You won't miss me for too long.
I know, just one day. I don't know what I'll do without you for one day.
You'll be fine. You're doing such a great job so far.
Thank you.
I'm tuning in whenever I get the chance. I'm tuning to watch.
Aww. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll definitely come in tomorrow.
I had this horrible feeling, like I loved commentating with Ketty, but I had this horrible feeling that everything I said was blatantly obvious to her. Like I was like, this is a Caracan. And she was like, yes, it is, Lula. Like, well done.
No, but it's always like that with commentating. And also you're mostly doing it for the viewers.
Yeah, this is true. I think it's really important to make the commentary accessible to all levels. So I think there's no point in skipping over the basics and isolating a lot of viewers from watching. So I hope that anybody watching, I hope you've been finding the commentary accessible. We're always open to feedback. If you would like more explanation, you can let us know. If you would like us to explain more reasoning behind openings or moves, then that's fine too. But yeah, we're going to raid on now to another chess streamer, and we'll be ending our broadcast on YouTube. So anyone watching, we'll see you tomorrow. Well, I will see you tomorrow with some new guests, and Diana will be back on Saturday. And don't forget that our commentary runs all week until Sunday, and the tournament also ends on Sunday. So yeah, I'm very excited now. Like I'm very invested in the tournament.
Yeah, and we're only halfway through.
Yeah, so. And because when you do commentary, I feel like you follow very closely the storylines and the
that's true.
And,
and you're seeing all the hardships of the players and how tough they're fighting. But thank you so much for everyone who tuned in to watch. Thank you also, Lula. And we're gonna my channel is gonna raid Georgiana. We'll go over there.
Okay, cool. Is she okay? Cool. I will raid her as well.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Lucanian and Pizza Racer, for being here as well. So I'll see you guys tomorrow for my channel, and I'll be with Lula on Saturday. And best of luck with your commentary tomorrow.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. I actually like morning rounds for commentary. So
Yeah, you have the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's true. And like it's still light outside. And I don't have to go and play another round like these guys do. My like sympathy goes out to players still playing round 1 when they're about to have another round. So we will see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day wherever